Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the NXTGEN Racing GT3 Championship Season 2, as brought to you on the sim racing platform known only as iRacing, available on PC. Tonight marks the season finale. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it is round 12 of 12 in this championship, and we're wrapping things up down under in Australia at the Mount Panorama Raceway located in Bathurst. But more on the circuit and its specifics in a brief while. Tonight, of course, we're taking a look back at Lobby 2, the lobby sponsored by the title sponsors of Coach Dave Academy and Next Level Racing, also known as the CDA NLR lobby, as we take a look back at how our drivers performed last night, with the race having taken place on what was Wednesday the 9th of February 2022. But of course, we can't be in two places at once, so we're going to be bringing you all of the racing action as if it were live as of tonight. And speaking of tonight, what is our schedule? Well, in approximately 14 minutes time at 8 o'clock GMT this evening, that's Greenwich Mean Time, or UTC, we'll be getting underway with the full feature race, the 120-minute race. That's the only thing on our agenda tonight, because of course, with it being round 12, it is the second of our two super endurance rounds. We had one back in round number 6 at Le Mans in France, and now we're having our second one in round number 12 in Australia. In the commentary box, you've got myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain of Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and tonight's broadcast is being brought to you live via free media platforms. Firstly, you can tune in via the official NXTGEN Racing YouTube channel, that's NXTGEN Racing on YouTube.com. Secondly, if you're a Facebook user, you can tune in via facebook.com/groups/NXTGEN Racing, or last but not least, if you're Twitch inclined, you can tune in via my personal Twitch channel, that is TX141 on Twitch. Now, of course, with this lobby being sponsored by Coach Dave Academy and Next Level Race, it's been sponsored by both of them throughout the season. It's only fair we reintroduce our title sponsors one more time this season, and we kick off with Coach Dave Academy. So who are Coach Dave Academy, I hear you ask? Well, Coach Dave Academy, as the name would suggest, is the home of amateur and professional sim racers looking to up their game through coaching, setups and track maps. Set up by the famous real-world racing driver of David Perel, the South African racing driver, it is the case that it has been his child and it has expanded. Initially started off in a set of course of competition on PC, but it has expanded, particularly towards the tail end of 2021, into the world of iRacing. And whether you're looking to gain a tenth of a second, a whole second, or find a way to set up the car in order to suit your driving style, Coach Dave Academy is the place to go to for both free and paid coaching and advice. And if you're interested, then why not check out CoachDaveAcademy.com today for further information. That website, once again, CoachDaveAcademy.com. But we come from Coach Dave Academy to Next Level Racing. Next Level Racing here, founded in 2009, is the world's leading simulation brand, revolutionising simulation with its industry-leading product range. With a clear focus on innovation and quality to meet the demanding needs of sim racers, Next Level Racing's designs and technology shall take your sim racing experience to the next level. If you want to know more about their products, be sure to head to their official website, nextlevelracing.com today for further information. That website, repeated, nextlevelracing.com. Now, we're very grateful to have both Coach Dave Academy and Next Level Racing with us as our title sponsors for Lobby 2 throughout Season 2. Next Level Racing, of course, coming back after Season 1 and our successful partnership between us and Next Level Racing. It is the case that both organisations contributing to the prize pool that's available to our Lobby 2 drivers come the end of the championship. Prizes being available for our drivers who take the win in both the Pro Championship and also the AM Championship, or there being two classes of driver making up Lobby 2. But also on top of that, we have some smaller prizes up for grabs for the drivers who achieve the following awards. Firstly, best livery. Secondly, the best overtake of the season. Thirdly, the most improved driver over the course of the season, and last but not least, the most consistent driver over the course of the season. All those awards shall be announced following tonight. They won't be announced as of tonight because we still need to do a bit of research in order to come up with our final results, but you can imagine in the weeks that follow, we'll be announcing those awards in short order. Well, talking about championship awards and championship prizes, let's review our drivers and teams championship going into the season finale. So in the Pro category, we start off by taking a look at our top tier of drivers in this lobby, and we can see that Gareth Williams is our certified champion with a very consistent and strong performance at Twin Ring Motegi in Japan last time out, meaning that he's now on 403 points and cannot be caught by anyone. He is unobtainable in terms of being able to dethrone him from the top step, and he is our Pro champion and having a great performance. And now he is being followed by current second place man Alistair Kirk. Now, Alistair Kirk from TGC Racing, of course, the driver who has really come alive in the second half of the season and is looking to try and wrap up on a high with second place. He is the favourite come tonight, albeit Matthew Prowting and William Foyle there on 298 and 296 points respectively are in hot pursuit, and both drivers do have an outside chance of potentially taking away the runner-up spot from Alistair Kirk. But of course the focus will more be on Prowting versus Foyle, and which one of the two of them will finish third as a minimum in the championship. You've then got a sizable gap of what is 46 points down to Joshua Wiggins and Paul Walter the further 10 points behind in P5, P6. Unfortunately, both RD Simsport drivers are unable to participate as of tonight, and they retired as of round number 11 due to personal circumstances, but we wish them well and hope to cross paths with them in the future, and that presents an opportunity for P7 man Paul Williams from Team Tetra Rouge to try and creep his way into the top 5 and take away P5 from Josh Wiggins come the end of tonight. Can he do it? We'll have to wait and see. Paul Scott there in P8 with Lamont Wedder close behind in P9 and Nigel Stock P10, with Nigel Stock of course the driver who dared to take the Ford GT, the unicorn of a car given how rare it is in the lobbies. It's the only Ford GT that's running out of the circuit. Can Nigel Stock potentially pick up 1 or 2 more places in this championship come the end? He has struggled to bring that Ford GT around. He has made it his own however, and it's pleasant to see it taking that American muscle around the circuit time and time again. Outside of the top 10 of the Pro Championship, Jamie Dory there, P11, and closing down Nigel Stock at a very rapid rate on 201 points now, and after a very strong performance at what was Twin Ring Motegi, really being the best of the rest outside of the top 2, you can imagine the Audi R8 driver would love to end on a high. Dan Murray in P12, unable to attend at Twin Ring Motegi, but could be returning tonight, and Stuart P. Taylor from TGC Racing out on 178 points, looking to potentially take away P12 from Dan Murray when all is said and done. Michael Seal and Stefan Albanese completed our top 15, with Nathan J. Scott, James Neve, Koichi Kelly, Ed May and Lee Horn completing our Pro Championship top 20. Outside of the Pro Championship, then going on to the AM standings, meanwhile, we can see that much like with Gareth Williams, last time out at Twin Ring Motegi, we crowned our champion in the AMA category, and as is the former Stefan Vessels, the Ferrari driver from Racing Team Astra, who in the end has been unstoppable over the course of the majority of the season. The first couple of rounds were rife with inconsistency, but from round 3 onwards, Stefan Vessel has just delivered time and time again, and that is why he's 100 points ahead of Mark Baker and has sealed the championship with a round to spare, picking up the almost perfect score last time out at Twin Ring Motegi, albeit not quite in the sprint race after a knockoff circuit on the opening lap, but still a ferocious recovery driver in the sprint race, showing his championship credentials time and again. Mark Baker P2 on 387 points, and effectively, unless Mark Baker does not participate tonight and gets a non-finish and results heavily go against it, with Darren Doherty needing to pick up the win and all the points, it would be the case that Mark Baker is guaranteed P2, the Team Tetra Rouge driver who really has been second best compared to Stefan Vessels, although there were a number of points when Mark Baker was back on the pace of Stefan Vessels and keeping him honest. Darren Doherty P3 under 336 points and looking to wrap up P3 in the championship, but not far enough away from Davide Favo or Gareth Mills in P4, P5 to be able to say he's comfortably got P3. And he will need to deliver tonight to keep the two South Africans at bay, with Davide Favo being 3 points ahead of his fellow countryman and rival, those two inseparable, and it'll be interesting to see which one of them takes home P4 or potentially P3, depending on how results play out. Elwyn Sykes, the comfortable P6 at this point, not really able to gain on Gareth Mills, nor be needed to break away from Mark Sykes any further, and he is pretty much a firm P6 in the championship, with Mark Sykes down in P7. The two are not related, but they do have the same surname. Chris Keenan in P8, and looking to try and get ahead of Mark Sykes when all is said and done tonight, with only 7 points between the two of them, and a further 5 points back. Liam Tack, the one driver who we'd love to see out there. He may not be the fastest, but you cannot fault the fact when you see Liam Tack in the Ferrari out there, it does bring a smile. Sean Scooter down in P10 on 192 points and looking to get one more strong result tonight to try and take away Liam Tack's P9. And outside of the top 10, we can see it's Travis Linscombe Hatfield. Unfortunately, was not able to race the last time out, and I believe we're not expected to return to the grid tonight, the American driver, who we do miss in the Lamborghini Huracan, with Jack Wyborn P12, Paul Colburn P13, Tom Delaney P14 and Mark Jardine completing our top 15. And then outside of the top 15 and completing our AM Championship, Renus Hammerin, Andy Walmsley, Luke Hobson, Rhys Young and Adam BM Quinn. We now come to our Team Championship, or the Constructors Championship, and as you can see here, the complexion is unresolved, with Racing Team Astra, that's Team RTA, currently leading by a margin of 15 points over Luxem 24 with MMB Esports. These two teams, of course, being split across the lobbies, with RTA in Lobby 2 and Luxem 24 of MMB Esports in Lobby 1. Now, of course, we saw how Luxem got on last night, and tonight is the major opportunity for Racing Team Astra to cement their crown at the top of the Team Championship. NXTGEN Blue in a guaranteed P3 at this point in time, with Switchback Motorsport and Apex mix with M&V Esports in pursuit, but not able to take on the P3 team anymore and competing for P4. Team Tetra Rouge just behind in P6 there, not too far off, within 20 points of Switchback Motorsport and looking to try and get into the top 5 when all is said and done with their consistent performances from their two drivers of Paul Williams and Mark Baker. Delta Motorsport just behind there as well, further 38 points down and looking to secure P7 in the capable hands of Jean-Louis Deschamps and Jason Landry, with McChange B2, TGC Racing and CXR Project Black completed our top 10. Outside the top 10, we have NXTGEN Orange, McChange B1, Altitude Esports, Ignium Motorsport and RD Simsport completing the top 15, with Bright Esports behind, Ignium Spark, Ignium Blaze, SVPMR and RD Simsport 2 completing our top 20. And then last but not least in our standings in the Team Championship, Team Racing Evans Red ahead of the three RP Motorsport teams of Rookie, Seniors and Expert. Then we have Team Racing Evans Blue and Orange following suit down to P26, Team DDR in P27, and then our final two teams, Ignium Motorsport Phoenix and RP Motorsports Juniors. But now we must come on to our circuit, and we today are at Bathurst in New South Wales, Australia for the Mount Panorama circuit. And as you can see from the circuit map here provided to us by simracingwiki.com, this circuit consisting of 23 corners. But I think this image does not articulate the concept of going up and down the mountain here. This circuit being located, it's an old school road racing circuit effectively, which has been modernised somewhat, but it is still based on old roads. And it is the case that you can see the start line there running into Hell Corner at turn 1. You've then got the long run up towards turn 2 at Griffin's Bend, also known as Quarry Corner. Well, I refer to it as Quarry Corner, but it's Griffin's Bend. I'll correct myself there. And we can see the cutting at turns 3 and 4. And beyond the cutting, we're then going over the mountain before coming down to Forest Elbow at turn 18. Then coming out of 18, we've got the long run down the Conrod Straight, the run from turn 18 down towards the Chase at turns 21, 22, where you've got that chicane, that infamous chicane where overtaking is at a premium. And then we've got the run to Murray's Corner. But enough talking about it from a visual perspective. Let's ride on board with Nigel Stock as he takes us around in the Mercedes AMG. Making his way across the timeline and breaking down into turn 1 here, into Hell Corner, coming down to second gear, running the Mercedes AMG just to give a demonstration of a car that wasn't picked by any of our drivers but could have been featured in this series. And as he makes his way up the mountain straight here, charging up through the gears, through the V8 engine, going over the bridge here, and as he then dips down into what will be the run up towards Griffin's Bend, coming up into turn 2 and looking to sight his brake marker of approximately 75 metres, the white board on the left hand side, and coming down to third gear before parking the car nicely on what is the apex. Now making his way on out and charging up towards what is turns 3 and 4, going into the cutting here and flying on through as he makes his way for the left hand here, coming all the way down the gearbox to second gear before stamping back on the throttle, balancing the car, and now through Quarry, turns 5 through to 7 as he makes his way through 5 and into the right left to 6, 7 as he comes on through and now keeps the car collected and together. Making his way through the triple left-hander now of what culminates in McPhillamy at turn number 10. In fourth gear, balancing the throttle and coming up into McPhillamy here, lifted off the throttle and not using any brake, and then standing back on the throttle as soon as he passes the apex curve before now going over Skyline, and down he comes all the way, trail braking into the dipper, coming through 13 and into the left-hander of the dipper at turn 14 here. Very tricky corner, second gear in the Mercedes, other cars in first gear, and now making his way all the way up towards Forest Elbow, trail braking through turn 17 into the infamous downhill braking zone here, keeping it nice and tight to the inside wall before powering out and charging onto the Conrod Straight. You want to get on the throttle as soon as possible out Forest Elbow, because otherwise you will lose a massive amount of time as you make your way down Conrod now all the way up towards the Chase. A long charge here going uphill at this point, so you'll see he will shift right at the top of the RPM band there to get the maximum possible performance going uphill, and now it's the long run down, going in excess of what will be 160 mile an hour here as he goes up to 161 and gets ready to go on to the brakes, braking at the 150 metre board there, and as he comes on in, it is the case going down the gearbox to second gear and powering through the chicane. One more corner awaits in the form of Murray's Corner, a very tricky corner this one. It's a downhill braking zone, a very high apex curve which you have to dodge, braking at approximately 80 metres going down to second gear and now powering out to complete the lap. A beautiful lap by Nigel Stock. Now, as for our rules tonight, well, we have a couple of rules, and we will see that some rules are in red where we've got rule changes because this is a super endurance round. But to give you the quick summary, drivers shall be running the iRacing medium downforce setup for tonight's race, and in general, because this is a super endurance round, there's no qualifying or sprint race as we talked about earlier, and double points shall be awarded in the feature race, excluding the fastest lap. In the feature race, we stick to the rule set of the grid being set by the reverse Drivers' Championship order, based on the championship standings after the previous round, with the grid being separated into driver classes. The classes starting 1 second apart approximately, and it will be the pros starting ahead of the AMs. Our driver's starting fuel load shall be restricted to 70% for the start of this race, and this encourages 2 mandatory pit stops, which will require our drivers to take on fuel and change all 4 tyres at least once. Now, I should emphasise there are 2 mandatory pit stops, not just the one, and with that rule introduction there of changing all 4 tyres at least once, what that means is each tyre, so the front left, the front right, the rear right and the rear left, must be changed at least once in this race. But the driver does not have to choose to change them all in a single pit stop. They could do the fronts in stop 1, they could do the rears in stop 2. On top of that, because of the high attrition rate of this circuit, each driver will have 3 fast repairs available, and the driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 25 or more instant points. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think it is time for us to go back to our live pictures, as everybody now getting themselves set to go racing, as indeed now everybody itching to go here. We are only minutes away, approximately 3 minutes away from going charging off on around what is this Australian circuit, and with all of our drivers coming on through at this point in time, we can see Darren Doherty, the Irishman there, making his way on down through Skyline as he very comfortably does so. A lot of drivers deciding to go into the pits now with only approximately 3 minutes of this practice session remaining and just taking it nice and easy. Although Darren Doherty, the Irishman there, with a slight twinge on that rear wing. I think he's had a little bit of contact somewhere and around, and whilst he makes his way on through, it is the case the privateer keeping it nice and together at the moment as he comes on down. Meanwhile, we do look further around, and we could also see, in fact, we do have Paul Scott taking to the grid tonight, the NXTGEN Racing driver, and making his way through and on to the mountain section. But whilst we are waiting for practice to finish, let's say hello in the chat to all you guys and girls who are tuning in, and it's great to see you all there. We say hello to in the YouTube chat there, Darren Doherty, Stuart Taylor, Stefan Vessels. We've also got, by the looks of things, as I wind down a little bit further, we've also got Tack Alley, or Liam Tack there, I believe, and I think that's everybody in the YouTube chat. We've also got Wogwan Ute saying, when's the race starting? The race is starting in approximately 2 minutes time, Wogwan, and we'll be going racing, of course, with what will be the short manual double file rolling start, where we'll be starting most of the way round the circuit. We can also say hello to Jean-Louis Deschamps, who's saying, yay, we have some Porsches on the grid. Gareth Mills as well, which is great to see Gareth Mills tuning in. And do remember, folks, we do have a number of the drivers who participated in this race tuning in, because this is not a live race in terms of the race happened last night. But as your commentator, I promise you, I do not know the outcome of this race. I do not know what happens. I've had some drivers say to me, keep an eye out for things that may happen on certain laps, so you may want to be pointing the camera in a particular direction, of course, but they've not told me why exactly. They've just told me keep your eyes out for the action, as we are just waiting now. We also say hello in the Facebook chat there to, what is Elwin Sites? Good evening to you, Elwin. We have also got in the Facebook chat, I believe, Katie Eames. Good evening to you, Katie Eames. And we can also see in the Twitch chat there, we have got Sweelerb, and also we have got Zoronic there. Good evening to you both. And I can see there the mention from Sweelerb to say, I need to get some custom emotes for the Twitch stream. That is something I will need to work on at some point. And I hope you're all doing well and looking forward to tonight. And if I have missed anybody in terms of saying hello, pop a message in telling me you're most due, and I'll make sure to give you a hello. But I hope you're all doing well, and whether you're tuning in and talking in the chat, alternatively just watching from afar, hope your week's going well. Of course, it is Thursday. We're almost at the end of another week of work. We're only moments away from going racing, and hopefully this will bring you around very nicely to Friday. And if you are feeling a little bit shy, do not be shy. Feel free to say hi. We don't bite in here, and I can promise you I don't bite, and indeed the rest of the guys in the chat don't bite. And now we are just waiting. But most of our drivers peeling into the pits. Alistair Kirk deciding to park up there on, I think he's got it very wrong, in fact, coming out of what was the dipper there, and now just trying to turn the car around. I'm not exactly sure how he's managed to do that, but he's got it very wrong. And, well, elsewhere on circuit, we've got Chris Keenan here, the Belgian driver, making his way on down. And indeed, Chris Keenan, one of our drivers who, whilst he hasn't quite got the pace of his peers in the AM class necessarily, battling in the midfield normally, he's been enjoying the racing from start to finish. And as he comes charging on down, we will wait and see how he gets on tonight, the privateer from the Central European country of Belgium, as he makes his way on around. But here we go then, ladies and gentlemen. Practice is complete. It is time for us to form the grid. And as the grid does form, well, let's just take you through it once more. So it is on pole there. Well, no, my sincere apologies. We do have a glitch grid here because we don't have a qualifying session. Unfortunately, replays do take away that ability for us to be able to give you the grid, so we will instead jump our camera over to the grid. And what we will be seeing in terms of starting on pole, unless I'm very much mistaken there, I believe it is going to be the case that we will be having Lee Horn start us off from pole in the Pro Class, with what is Stuart Taylor alongside him in the Ferrari there, and it will be behind them, it will be Jamie Dory and Nigel Stock. And then we do have what is Paul Williams, and waiting for another Pro to go alongside him, and then we have got William Foyle and Matthew Prowting just behind them, and then it will be Alistair Kirk and Gareth Williams, or Gaz Williams as he likes to be known in short, who will be forming that final part of the grid. A bit further back we can see then we have got in the AM class, we've got a return of Jack Wyborn. So Jack Wyborn will be starting us off from pole in the AM class. It's great to see, and he's bringing the Mercedes AMG as well, so he's decided to come back for the final round, which is absolutely great news, and he will be leading our AM class away. As we're hearing that Mark Sykes and Chris Keenan have already jumped to the pits. They're going to be starting from the pit lane. They do not want to be involved in any of the opening lap instance, and we saw a nasty incident going over the mountain on lap 1 in the Apex Racing Academy lobby last night, where there was a huge moment from multiple drivers coming into McPhillamy Park, and we're hoping that's not going to happen again tonight, because we had a safety car out in full force, and that led to a delay of approximately 10 minutes to the racing. But indeed, once we got underway, once again, the racing was absolutely spectacular. As we can see there, Paul Williams in the YouTube chat. Good evening to you, Paul Williams. Hope you're doing well. And now it is the case. I think Stuart Taylor, in fact, taking us away as he makes his way on down, and Lee Horn alongside him here, and they'll be taking us away as they come out of the final corner for 2 hours of racing. We just wait for them to take us to the green. And it's lights out and away we go for the season finale in Lobby 2. Coach Dave Academy and NXTGEN Racing sponsored as they make their way down towards turn 1. And immediately Stuart Taylor going on the offensive round the outside of Lee Horn, as Lee Horn gets a very bad start. Meanwhile, Nigel Stock trying to go all the way around the outside of Jamie Dory and getting it hooked up very nicely. They all make their way now up the mountain straight, heading up towards Griffin's Bend. And as they do, Stuart Taylor immediately breaking away. But now we've got the long drag race. They're all 2 by 2. Hurrah, hurrah, as they go charging up the straight. And we can see there in the 2 wide situation, we do also have Paul Scott and William Foyle as they make their way into the heavy braking zone. Nigel Stock up the inside of Jamie Dory. They give one another space, and as they do, they're still side by side as they come up towards the cutting. One of them's got to give way, and it is Nigel Stock who gives way in the end, with Paul Scott alongside and making his way and tucking in as they all come up into the cutting for the first time asking. Meanwhile, we can see Jack Wyborn, having started on pole in the AM class, has got himself nicely ahead there of Matthew Prowting and Gareth Williams as they make their way on through. Sean Scooter, meanwhile, in at what is P2 in the AM class, and as they all coming up now and go into what is Quarry Corner and coming up through the chicane of 6-7 as they go up blind over the rise. You can see Gareth Mills already going on the offensive versus Elwyn Sykes in trying to break away from Davide Favo as they come roaring through turn number 9 and head up towards McPhillamy. And as they come on through, I do believe we've had Stuart Taylor having off, and Stuart Taylor's got it very wrong, and as we can see Jamie Dory taking evasive action. Now for Stuart Taylor, he's just got to wait there as everybody goes on around, and I think most drivers are going to navigate him safely here, but Stuart Taylor's got it very wrong at McPhillamy, and what that means is, as we see Lee Horn leading here, well, Jamie Dory had to back off and slow the car on down as he comes on through at this point. I don't think we've got a safety car because everybody's been able to clear the incident, but Lee Horn has just been given a huge lifeline, unless I'm very much mistaken. Well, as they come running on down the straight at this point, it does look as though I think everybody's tucking in now. I think we do have a safety car of some description here, as I think the pace has been taken out of the race to a degree, so everybody is being required to form up into a safety car file, if you will. So it's very unfortunate there, but Stuart Taylor just having that one major moment as everybody makes their way on down. But we've only had one driver involved in the instance so far, and I think Stuart Taylor just running a little bit wide at McPhillamy. Unfortunately, we can't bring you the replay back of that. That's the limitations we do have with the technology available to us today. But I am hearing in my ear Stuart Taylor just getting it a bit wrong at a very tricky corner, and well, we haven't seen as many fireworks as we have previously. As our drivers make their way around right now, and we have just had confirmation that it is the case the safety car is on out, but I think the safety car is a little bit just up the road at the moment. I think it's going to be, well, I think Lee Horn just running, and there is the safety car making its way on out of the pits. They're not sure who's driving the safety car tonight, but I know they've just left the pits and made sure to pick up the field. So it is the case that after the opening lap, and now we're behind the safety car for at least one lap, if not a couple of laps, it is Lee Horn who is leading ahead of Jamie Dory there in P2. There is Nigel Stock in P3, followed by Paul Scott P4, William Foyle P5. William Foyle making only the one place at the very start there, but a good start for William Foyle. Alistair Kirk just behind him. Alistair Kirk making a lot of places at the start of this race, to be fair to him. We've then got Paul Williams in P7, then our AM class leader P8, and that is Jack Wyborn, followed by Matthew Prowting P9 and Gareth Williams P10, and then we have all of the AM pack coming on through. If you exclude Jack Wyborn, we have Sean Scooter, P2 in his class, and P11 overall. Liam Tack just behind. And then we've got Elwyn Sykes there ahead of Gareth Mills. Gareth Mills being P14. Davide Favo P15 with Darren Doherty P16. We've then got Mark Baker P17, Stephen Vessels P18, Chris Keenan P19, and then Mark Sykes completing your top 20. And we have Stuart Taylor into the pits to do repair work to the car here. They're going to be doing some work now. Have they put him up on the jacks? That's the big question. It doesn't look as though they've put him up on the jacks currently, so they're probably just going to do repair work and put some fuel in the car so that way he can can catch up to the pack behind the safety car. But indeed, and now it is one of those situations whereby, as we can see, Stuart Taylor just leaving his pit box there. We look back now. Lee Horn will feel very comfortable at this point, just for the simple reason he's got control of this and he will take everyone away. And he mastered the start, albeit he was under a bit of pressure at the start, and that's how Stuart Taylor managed to get past it. But now that Taylor's gone away, it is the case as Taylor joins the back of the field. He'll be roaring up and around the circuit and required to catch on up. Well, Jamie Doria, of course, will not be wanting to put too much pressure on versus Lee Horn. They'll want to try and make it safe for the first couple of corners of the next-gen racing drivers. But meanwhile, behind, Nigel Stock now in a great opportunity here. If he can get a good start, he will be able to get himself right on up the order as he makes his way on through. As we can see all of you there in the YouTube chat in particular talking about the safety car. Darren Doherty saying that it was the best part of the race, cruising around with no stress. Obviously, well, with Bathurst being a very stressful circuit, because those walls come thick and fast as they make their way on around the mountain section right now. And of course, coming through here much slower, much more controlled compared to how they would be under race pace. They'll be itching to go very shortly. And well, looking further down, we can see Darren Doherty there in the Irish flag coloured Ferrari as he makes his way through the privateer here. Well, he's going to be able to try and get past Davide Favo when they go racing. We do ride on board for a brief while here with Darren Doherty. And of course, the very nice thing here for a lot of the cars, particularly the mid-engine rear-wheel drive cars, such as the Ferrari and also the Audis and the Porsches, even more so, these cars quite susceptible to overheating the rear tyres and the rear brakes, particularly the Porsche 911s in the capable hands of Lee Horn and Gareth Mills. We know that the Porsche is very susceptible to brake temperatures. We saw that at Twin Ring Motegi. We're going to see that again here today, given how hot it is at the circuit and how long this race is. And they'll be grateful for this safety car time because it takes a little bit of race time out and gives them the opportunity to bring the temperature of the car down as they make the way on through. As we say hello to Alistair Kirk in the YouTube chat. Hope you're doing well, Alistair. And I believe that is Mark Sykes there in the YouTube chat saying, I swear the walls move. Indeed, it is the case that the walls do move around here. Although some of you may remember one of the infamous moments from Formula 1 where Ayrton Senna smashed himself out of the race at Monte Carlo and said that one of the apex walls moved in the bay section. And when somebody went back there, it had actually moved by 2 millimeters. And that shows you how close he was running to the walls. Of course, whether it's legend or it's true, there's still a bit of a debate about that one. But it can feel as though the walls move here at Bathurst, particularly when tired arms, legs and fatigue kicks on in. But of course, we are only 6 minutes in. The safety car has still got the lights. We are going around, I do believe, for another lap under the safety car, which is unfortunate. It's going to take away another 4 minutes. But will the safety car, and well, it is the case. Well, we can see it there in the YouTube chat. We've had Jamie Dory clarify that the safety car was out for 4 laps due to a bug, and as it went on green on Lightbox on lap 3. That's very unfortunate. So we are going to be behind the safety car for a little bit longer here. It seems though the safety car has decided it wants to stay out a bit longer. So in the meantime, I guess what can we say? Well, we're going to be looking at approximately what will be in the region of around 15 minutes of this race gone by the time we go racing once again. And everybody at this point, I think, will be sort of thinking, okay, when are we going to go? So another 2 laps before we will be seeing that safety car. So yes, that'll take us to about 14 minutes before we resume. And this is a good time, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't had the opportunity to go grab yourself a cup of tea, alternatively go grab yourself a glass of water, you want to go grab it now, because once that safety car goes away, the action will be coming thick and fast and you won't want to miss it. But as we see our drivers just making their way on the hill, let's have a think about what exactly will be going through the minds. And one driver in particular, Stuart Taylor right now, who will be down at the back. He's used the fast repair already, and he's already had a bit of a nightmare start to this race. But to be fair, what has been a difficult start, he will have a lot of time to turn around, and it'll be a similar situation as to what we saw with a number of our pro drivers. Callum Reed-Garton, for example, in the Pro-Am class, who came from out of nowhere to take the win in the Pro-Am class last night, and well, a number of other drivers as well in a difficult start. Matt Evans as well in the Am class, recovering to P2 after a nightmare start. It's the case you can make up a lot of time over the course, and well, one of the situations here, of course, just keep it out the walls. Don't make a mistake, and you'll normally find you gain a lot of places without having to put in a major amount of effort as the drivers make their way on around. But right now, as they all come on through, I think Stuart Taylor as well will be kicking himself for this one, and will be looking to try and pick up the pieces of Team TGC. But we go from one TGC driver to another, and that is Alistair Kirk, who at this point, of course, he will want to make sure he secures that P2, and he will have his eyes on William Foyle ahead of him as they make their way around. To be fair, he's already got himself ahead of Matthew Prowting. Matthew Prowting having a very difficult start. And the BMW M4 driver for Eclipse Racing as they make their way on over, and we will have one more lap under the safety car after this one. I think in Matthew Prowting's mind, he'll be looking to have a solid race. But one of the things with regards to Matthew Prowting as well is of course BMW M4. We know the BMW is a very strong race car. It used to be very strong in qualifying as well until a balance of performance adjustment midway through the season where we saw a lot of weight added to the rear of the car, plus also its straight line speed manipulated to make it a little bit weak on the straights because it was very strong on the straights compared to most. And as it makes its way on down right now in towards the dipper, I think it is the case that Matthew Prowting at this point will be thinking, how can he gain the advantage? Because most of our cars here, of course, mid-engine rear-wheel drive, and then we've got the BMW drivers, and then the one Mercedes driver who has decided to grace us with another front-engine rear-wheel drive machine, and that is in the form of Jack Wyborn just up the road. You can see him at the front of the camera there in the very distinctive green-yellow colours, and as Prowting comes on through right now through Forest Elbow, he will be thinking about the longer term. As they make the way on through, we do just check in with the stewards. We're not hearing anything. We can see, well, we're having confirmation from the stewards as well in private. You're not seeing this on screen, of course, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm having this off screen. It is the case about the safety car and confirming when it will be deciding to making its way into the pits, as we just see our drivers making their way on around right now. But as they do, and we do look a little bit further up the order, and well, we look to Paul Scott here, another BMW driver, and well, I think it's the case that for Paul Scott, he will recognise that the drivers behind him have a little bit more pace perhaps, or one lap pace compared to him. But to be fair, and that's not to say Paul Scott's not a fast driver, the one thing that Paul Scott's very good at doing, we have seen in the races he's been able to attend, he is a strategy driver. He works very well to a defined pace and knowing when his strategy is, and that's how he normally gains the places through running very consistently. But another driver as well who really does have Mr. Consistent in his title is William Foyle, the Crest Autosport driver, and well, he joined us midway through the season. You could ask a bit of a what if he had been with us since the start in terms of would Gareth Williams be championship winner now, or would William Foyle be right up there? We can always ask 101 what if questions, but at the end of the day as well, the Crest Autosport driver, as we're going on to the final lap under the safety car very shortly, we do apologise for the safety car designed to stay on out for quite a bit of time, but this does happen of course, and we can see and that William Foyle at this point will just waiting and itching to go, and we'll be looking for every potential opportunity. As the safety car will be in at the end of that, we can see that the lights have gone off on the top of the safety car, so we've got one more lap here. And well, as I say, for Lee Horn in particular and the Porsche drivers, also Gareth Mills, well, they will be absolutely smiling at the fact they have seen a few minutes of this race absorbed under the safety car, because they will not want those brake temperatures to get too high. And what are we looking out for high brake temperatures? Watch out for the rear brakes in particular. You'll see the brake discs light up blazing red hot. We saw that at Twin Ring Motegi from our Porsche drivers, and we do have to keep our eyes on out as they make the way on around one more time here under that safety car. And as we look to the blimp right now, you can see all of our pack making their way along, and as they come up the mountain here, here's one of those situations when now everybody will be salivating. Now, what goes through your mind here as a driver when you're behind the safety car for what feels like an eternity? Well, I can tell you from personal experience, the one thing you have to do is essentially you have to tone yourself down during this period. Now, what that means is not necessarily switch yourself off, but you have to think, okay, the race is going to start again soon. I've got to be ready to go back up and turn the wick up. So what you can imagine for a lot of drivers here, they'll be doing little exercises in terms of just keeping the legs nice and warm, keeping the arms nice and warm as well. They do that little bit of side-to-side weaving in the car, and that is also to get some tyre temperature in. They might also do just a little bit of acceleration and braking in order to keep those brake temperatures up and just keep themselves nice and awake in terms of those reactions. But as a driver, all you want to know is when that safety car is coming on in, because when it is going to come in, what that then gives you is the ability to get ready. As we can see there, the joke in the YouTube chat from Mark Sykes, Marshall's having to clean the track indeed. It's all the pieces that Stuart Taylor has left up over the skyline, although I think the Marshalls have been a little bit sensitive. I mean, over the years as well, some of you may have heard about quite recently, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, it was an endangered species of animal that decided to camp itself out on the circuit, and due to the volume of, I think it was the V8 supercars that were racing at Bathurst at the time, or was it GT3s, one of the two, but they essentially had to throw a full course yellow in order for the marshals to help the animal off circuit. But it's not unknown at Bathurst for some of the strangest reasons for safety cars to coming out. We've had kangaroos run onto the tracks before in real world racing. Of course, unfortunately, we can't replicate this in iRacing as they make their way on around right now. And it's great to see in the YouTube chat so many of you enjoying yourselves, and to see so many of you tuning in is absolutely fantastic. But as we are waiting right now to go racing at the end of this, a lot of drivers now, as they'll be aware, they're coming down towards Conrod. They're getting ready to go once again. As we see Stuart Taylor in the YouTube chat, iRacing need to add the kangaroos. Indeed they do. It would be brilliant if there was a little bit of a random number generator to say a kangaroo may come out of circuit, but I do think some of the animal rights groups may have a word to say about that, so long as it doesn't lead to the kangaroos being attacked by virtual cars at the end of the day. But still, we can dream, and now it is time as everybody makes their way on down. You'll see now all of our drivers really going to town in terms of weaving behind the safety car. It is time to really get those tyre temperatures up. They want to be in what is the prime position in terms of those tyre temperatures to go racing, because if you start the race on cold tyres, much like you would in a standing start, well, that means you don't have the grip, you don't have the traction necessary coming out the corners. And the particular corner where you need that tyre temperature is turn 2. That is, of course, Griffiths Bend. We saw what happened last night in terms of when the tyre temperature is not there, the car will just not grip as they're going through the uphill right-hander, and the rear will slide on out, particularly in the mid-engine rear-wheel drive car, and also into quarry. Whereas you're emerging from turn number 4, you want to get on the power, and there's a significant bump in the road, and you need the temperature in the tyre to give you that lateral grip. But right now, we can see we do have Lee Horn building back up to pace very slowly here, as the safety car will very shortly be peeling into the pits, and then we do go racing once again, as we are just waiting for the safety car to come on in, and it'll be Lee Horn who takes us away from the lead. And here we go once again, ladies and gentlemen. Lee Horn looks to try and get the jump coming out the final corner, but it looks though Jamie Dory, in fact, had the better run, and Jamie Dory immediately goes on the offensive up the inside here and goes into the lead. A nice start from Jamie Dory with Nigel Stock tucking in behind once again. But now as they're all line astern as they make their way through the opening corners, it does mean, as we can see a little bit further back there, it is the case. I think Matthew Prowting's been caught napping somewhat, and indeed Paul Williams as well. Both of them having a very slow start to the race as they make their way on charging on up and up into what is Griffiths Bend. Now as they come up into turn number 2, it is the case that Jamie Dory right now having a very smooth run to begin with here as they make the way and heading up, as we see William Foyle there running a little bit wide and trying to get the run up the inside here of Paul Scott. He's going to look for it into the cut, and he dares to believe, and he does it as he makes his way through turn number 4 here, and as they come on through, very smooth there by William Foyle as they make the way now in through 5 and up towards 6 and 7, and as they come charging around through 6 and 7 at this point, all drivers in formation as we look to the leaders here as they come on through turn number 9 and up into 10. Now as they make the way up into McPhillamy, McPhillamy of course claiming Stuart Taylor on the opening lap. Will we see anything similar here? Nothing so far, as Jamie Dory now making his way down into Skyline, and as he comes on down the hill, going a bit high on the curve in there, but he holds it together as they all come into the dipper. Everybody keeping it nice and smooth so far as they come across the mountain a bit further back. Meanwhile, we do have Jack Wyborn here currently leading the AM class, and between the two pros are Paul Williams and Matthew Prowting. Paul Williams ahead and Matthew Prowting behind as they make the way down into Forest Elbow here. A little bit of a brake lock up there on the front brakes from Paul Williams, a bit of smoke coming on up, but it does. But as they make the way through now onto Conrod, this is where they're all going to have that opportunity to go charging after one another as they come down and head towards the chase. And it's William Foyle in particular who we ride on board with here, battling with Nigel Stock. He's got the overspeed versus the full GT. He's going to have to really commit to this as they make the way under braking. It's Ford GT on the inside, it's Audi on the outside, and Nigel Stock not having the brakes and having to back out, as meanwhile a bit further back Paul Scott holding off Alistair Kirk. But it is the case that Alistair Kirk looking for the mother of all moves as they make the way down towards turn number 23 into Murray, and as they come down to Murray's corner, you can see Kirk squirming left, squirming right, but he can't find the way through and instead has to wait for an opportunity, as we're hearing that Liam Tacker's had a bit of an off. And well, I think Liam Tack is now getting himself back up to speed after going off at the chase, and well, Liam Tack doing a little bit of a disappearing act there. I think that's due to latency as he tries to get himself back up to speed. But we can see Mark Sykes here side by side with Stuart Taylor, who's now trying to make that recovery drive after a rather sedate return to racing on that lap as they make the way onto what is lap number 6. And it is the case Stuart Taylor gaining the position off of Mark Sykes, who's keeping it nice and slow but clean at the moment. I think building himself up to pace a little bit later on in this race, wanting to get some temperature in the Ferrari. But as they make the way over and up the brow here and down towards turn number 2 once again, we can see in front that's Elwyn Sykes there trying to hold off Darren Doherty, but Doherty's looking up the inside, he's not close enough and he has to back on out. Meanwhile, Mark Baker making their way on through, and I should point out, by the way, the Team Tetra Rouge drivers running special liveries today, and they're running special liveries in honour of Bentley Motorsport's win here at Bathurst as they make the way on through. So keep an eye out for Mark Baker and also Paul Williams' liveries on their cars, and there's a tribute to the very special achievements by Bentley Motorsport as they make the way on through and around and over the mountain once again. as we look from Mark Baker to a little bit further up the road to what is Elwin Sykes here, and we ride on board the gearbox here of the racing team Astra driver. Of course, remember, Elwin, much like his teammates, wanting to get the maximum possible points because they want to take the team championship when all is said and done, the South African outfit. As you see Elwin Sykes getting a good run over Skyline, and as he rolls it down under trail braking here and into the dipper, very tricky corner, but you can see the difference in line there already. Down Doherty taking a much more jagged cut of the apex of the dipper, whereas Elwin Sykes taking a much more gradual run. But we do have to cut away briefly because we can see Jamie Dory here, our race leader in the Pro Class, and overall, well, it's the case that Lee Horn and Jamie Dory boxing in versus what is William Foyle as they make their way down into the braking zone, and William Foyle's going to squeeze his way on through, but Lee Horn's going to stay there on the inside. They come out 22 and make their way down towards Murray's Corner here, and it is the case that William Foyle gets a wall of Next Gen Racing in his way, but he's going to try and go for it here into Murray as they make their way through turn 23, and as they go for a left-hander here, it is going to be a place game from William Foyle. The patient hunter from Crest Autosport gets it done, and now continues to soldier after Jamie Dory as they make their way into the left-hander here of turn number 1, once again going through Hell Corner. Behind, meanwhile, we've got Nigel Stock, who's holding off Paul Scott for the time being as they make their way on through, but I do think that Paul Scott's trying to put some pressure on here, and in fact I think it's actually Nigel Stock who has found his way past. These two have been trading places, and Nigel Stock has got the upper hand as the Ford GT driver as he makes his way over the crest and up towards turn number 2 once again. 20 minutes in, come the time they go onto the mountain here, and well, we have had a little bit of an adventure. We've had a few events so far, but it has also been somewhat a bit calmer. But I think now it is the calm before the storm, which we see Sean Scooter here trying to find his way past Jack Wyburn. Of course, Scooter wanting to take the lead of the AM class in order to have that opportunity to be able to take... Oh, goodness me, we've had an incident there going up into the cutting, and Alistair Kirk into the wall, but he's parked it there on circuit, so everyone's going to be making their way on through safely, and Alistair Kirk just having to wait for the whole field to come through, and that is very, very painful as they all make the way on through. No safety car for this one by the looks of things, given where Alistair Kirk is parked, and he'll be able to get that car back up to speed from what I'm gathering. But I think it is the case that Alistair Kirk feeling the pain there of that one mistake, and that is going to put him all the way down the order, and now he's got it all to do again, plus also he's got to repair the car or drive it with a lot of damage, as meanwhile Scooter has found his way on past Jack Wyburn, and he's got it done. I think Scooter had a run-off in what was the run-down Skyline, or just had to back out, but Scooter has gained the position and is now up into the lead of the AM class, and will try and run away with things now, but will he be able to break away from the beast that is that Mercedes? Meanwhile, back up front, we can see Jamie Dory here battling with Crest Autosports. William Foyle as they make their way down into the chase here, and as they come down and breaking, it's Dory on the inside, it's Foyle on the outside. Foyle's going to try and go outside to inside here. Dory, of course, having the initial run on the brakes, but as they make their way on through, you can see that William Foyle making it very clear he does not want to yield, and as they make their way down in towards Murray's Corner, you can see a flash of the lights there from Jamie Dory. I think he'll feel as though there's a tiny bit of contact. And as they make their way on through, it is the case, the two of them still side by side. They go across that timeline onto another lap. And well, will Dory be able to siphon up the inside here? He's got the overspeed. He's going to commit for it here into Hell Corner. But as they make their way through the left hand of the two of them, constantly exchanging the position as if it's going out of style. Of course, it is the season finale, so it is a case now everybody wanting to give it their best. But it does look as though William Foyle's had the better run out of turn number 1. And as they make their way up towards Griffiths Bend this time, well, it's going to be a defense here from William Foyle. Lee Horn just behind. Lee Horn looking to try and also get into the mix, but he can't find it. But Jamie Dory there, sweeping all the way around the outside, having the confidence, having the grip and the speed, and they are still side by side. My goodness, now one of them's got to back out here, surely. No, neither of them does, but in the end William Foyle will have to back out because it does taper on the apex of the cutting, and my goodness, Dory holding on versus William Foyle, not yielding, not giving in, and not letting this go as they make their way across and towards McPhillamy now as they come through turn 8, then 9 and up into 10, but very close as Alistair Kirk has come into the pit to repair work on the car. It is not a scheduled stop, I can see outside my commentary box window, but now as they make their way up towards Skyline here, the top three really nose to tail as they roll on down. Alistair Kirk's just leaving his pit box right now, I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, with repair work done, because he won't benefit from the safety car. And well, a bit further back we can see a Lee Horn here just getting the popcorn view as we ride on board with the Porsche driver as he makes his way into Forest Elbow, and he right now just has to sit behind the two Audi drivers and try and stay with them, but he won't be staying with them if he keeps getting Forest Elbow slightly wrong with a bit of exit understeer like that, as he's already lost 7 tenths on that exit. He's going to lose even more with the Porsche struggling for straight line speed. But as he continues to watch here, we do make our way back up towards the leaders right now as they go side by side once again here. We saw it on the previous lap, and it is the same as before. It's William Foyle on the outside, Jamie Dory on the inside here, and as they come down into the chase, well, William Foyle this time trying to take a tighter run through the initial apex in order to shut off Jamie Dory's momentum. He's done a good job, but Jamie Dory coming back here and being very resilient as they make the way under braking. Oh, goodness me! And William Foyle gets it very, very wrong under braking. Just the rear right-hand wheel on the grass. He's brought it back under control, but driving right on the limit there, and it shows as he now returns to racing with a tiny error costing him massively, and everybody comes on through. Now, when I say everybody, that's all the way down to P6 of William Foyle, and he's trying to come back immediately versus Matthew Prowting, but he's got no way to be able to overspeed versus the BMW. Initially, it's going to be the run up towards Griffiths Bend, and as they make their way through, you can see behind there, that is the case that Gareth Williams literally looking left, he's looking right, he's trying to come on through, and the Next Gen Racing driver wants to gain this position whilst he's got a chance as they make the way. There's a bit of contact between the two of them there as they come on through, but they've kept it together, and well, I think William Foyle, they're flashing his lights in frustration. You can understand why. He'll be frustrated at his own mistake, and he'll be frustrated at a little tag there from the BMW of Williams, but I think he'll be put down as a racing incident. I don't think there's going to be a huge amount of repercussions here because both drivers are still racing as Chris Keenan is into the pits from what was P20. That's last place, P11 in the AM class. I can see out my commentary box window, but right now our pro drivers stepping up again massively in terms of the battles. But let's not forget our AMs as well, and Gareth Mills right now trying to hunt down Jack Wyborn here in order to secure what would be P4 in the AM Championship if things were to finish as they are, as he gives that pursuit of the Mercedes driver ahead of him, and as they make the way over Skyline and now dropping down towards the dip here, fast and furious between the two of them, and as they make the way on through, it is going to be a case, I think, for Gareth Mills at this point. He just has to wait for that opportunity to arise. It's going to be a tough one, but he will be able to find it eventually if he does keep with it, but he won't have it on the straight here as Jack Wyborn goes into the wall, and well, that is going to be an opportunity now for Mills with Wyborn picking up that damage. He will have some crippling aero damage, as meanwhile we look a little bit further up the road and we can see it's Paul Scott versus Nigel Stock here. Nigel Stock backing out. They're not deciding to make it too wide in the run into the chase there. I think what he realises is the Ford GT is going to come on stronger later on in this race, and he can of course use the American muscle in the form of that 3.5 litre V6 engine in order to be able to stay with the driver in front of him. As meanwhile, I think Gareth Mills is oh goodness me, and Gareth Mills has got it very, very wrong at what is the chicane. And what about Jack Wyborn? Well, Wyborn's also had a moment. I think the two drivers have come together, or both just got it wrong, but they've both been demoted down the order just whilst we were looking at Stock versus Scott, where it does look as though Wyborn carries on. And what about Gareth Mills? Well, Gareth Mills, he has got himself back up to speed, but I think his race has gone a bit sideways in terms of what he was looking to achieve, but we'll wait and find out a bit later on. Meanwhile, further up the road once again now, Matthew Prowting looking to try and take advantage of Nigel Stock looking a little bit weak in the Ford GT as they make the way out of Griffiths Bend, and as they come roaring up into the cutting, it is the case of Prowting looking for it. You can see he's trying to get his nose, and he goes for it almost there, and that would have been very, very brave to go for it there from that far back into the cutting. That would have been the mother of all lunges. And as we ride on board here with the BMW driver riding on board with the roll bar, you could see how close he is trying to stay to the Ford GT. He wants that run, he wants to get into P4 overall and in the Pro class, and Nigel Stock really struggling right now for lateral grip. You can see the Ford GT sliding there through turn 9 and almost understeering a little bit wide into McPhillamy, but as they make the way now over Skyline and through towards the dipper, I think this is where Nigel Stock can take some of the pace out of the race and calm it down a little bit as they now make their way through 15 and head up towards Forest Elbow. Into the trail break they go, and as they make their way through 17, you can see Nigel Stock really having to tap the brakes to keep that Ford GT moving around the corner now. I think Stock's not nursing a problem necessarily, but it's just been a little bit unsettled, and now it's to try and bring it back together. But at the same time, look at that Ford GT pull away initially under acceleration. That shows you the raw American muscle in front. And now Matthew Prowting, of course, in the BMW trying to close on up as they make the way all the way down, and he's closing now as they make the way beyond 160 mile an hour. They head into the chicane. He looks up the inside, he goes to it late on the brakes here, and I think Nigel Stock's going to give him the space, and it is a change of place for the pair of them as they make the way through. But now will Stock come on back as they make the way down towards Murray's corner. We can see Prowting going defensive immediately, the Eclipse Racing driver not wanting to lose any ground. But right now, in going defensive, all he is going to do is push the two of them back towards Gareth Williams and William Foyle, who are now right behind as they make their way up onto turn number 1 into lap number 11 they go. And well, they are staying as they are for the time being. Now, as they make their way through that left-hander at turn number 1 and up towards 2, you can imagine at any point these guys could come together and kick it off once again. But I think Nigel Stock at this point just watching and cognizant of the fact, well, he's in a bit of a difficult situation. If he fights too hard, he could open up the risk of the battle opening up with Gareth Williams and William Foyle behind as Gareth Mills is into the pits. He comes in from what was P8 in Carson, that was P17 overall, as we can see Prowting and also Nigel Stock both using the full exit there of what is Griffiths Bend in order to try and stay ahead. But these guys are falling off the top 3 right now through the little bit of squabbling, but to be fair, they're going all in for the racing, and it's understandable as Nigel Stock has had a very poor run there out of quarry, and as a result he's given Matthew Prowting all the incentive to break away. He's already got that gap up to a second as Prowting, and Nigel Stock feeling a lot of pressure as they make their way up towards McPhillamy. Now as they come over the ridge here, I think Nigel Stock may be dealing with a flat spot on the tyre by the looks of things. It doesn't look as though that car's got the grip. He may have flat spotted it under braking earlier on through some heavy braking, but right now Nigel Stock definitely not on the pace he wants to be on, and that Ford GT is having to be made to go around these corners as he comes on through and into Forest Elbow once again, and as he makes his way on the braking here, coming on through, he goes very deep and misses the wall by a hair there. By looks of things, there might have been a small graze, but my goodness, I thought it was going to go straight into the wall. But what that means is Gareth Williams comes on through, and William Foyle also comes on through at the same time. Nigel Stock there, very skillful to keep out the wall as they make the way now down in towards the chase. But this is the opportunity William Foyle have waited for. It's come a little bit sooner than they expected as they make the way down to the chicane, and where you can see Gareth Williams defending to the inside and bringing the car in, but William Foyle right there as they make their way through the chicane, and my goodness, they couldn't get closer if you wanted them to. Meanwhile, Mark Baker giving pursuit here in P3 in the AM class, P11 overall versus Davide Favo, and behind him Stefan Vessels as they make their way through. Davide Favo gets a very bad run through the chicane there on exit turn 22, proving very hazardous to Davide Favo. Now as they make the way into Murray's Corner, you can see how it's the racing team Astra drivers sandwiching Mark Baker as he makes his way out and onto another lap. Now, for those wondering, by the way, with regards to what I was saying about the Team Tech Rouge liveries, well, we're going to have to park that thought, ladies and gentlemen, as we just look to our leaders. I thought Leon might have been trying to size up a move there, but it has not materialised. Meanwhile, looking a bit further back, William Foyle is looking for the move versus Gareth Williams as we're in. Gareth Mills had another moment on circuit. You can see William Foyle not able to find his way past this time as they make their way through, and they fall back into natural order. But Stuart Taylor, meanwhile, has just got past Darren Doherty, but to be fair, Darren Doherty giving him the position there, given the pro drivers coming on through, and the AM drivers do not have to battle with the pros. It doesn't benefit them at all. And Gareth Mills has jumped to the pits once again, I'm sorry to announce, ladies and gentlemen, and Liam Tack has just left the pit lane after doing work on the car as they make the way on through. But what I was trying to say, and we were looking at Mark Baker, is with regards to that livery, I was saying earlier it was in tribute to a special achievement from Bentley Motorsport. Well, that achievement in particular is to Bentley's victory at Bathurst in 2019, and particularly if you look at Paul Williams' car, which we'll briefly flick to, that livery very similar to the livery that was run by Bentley Motorsport at Bathurst in 2019. The same colour and also the same check pattern as he makes his way on through. And as Paul Williams right now giving that pursuit of Sean Scudder, but more importantly Nigel Stock, who has had a very difficult time. These liveries, of course, being designed by Mark Sykes Designs. If you want to know about iRacing liveries, Mark Sykes Designs is the #1 spot for all liveries. And as he makes his way down right now, it is the case that we look from one of our Team Tech Rouge drivers to a bit further up the order, and that is Jamie Dorey here, who is holding off Lee Horn for the time being. And Sean Scudder has found his way past Nigel Stock, I'm hearing, in the background. But meanwhile, we look from these guys, it is Next Gen Racing, the top 3 drivers, and then we've got Matthew Prowting, who has managed to inch himself away from the pursuer there of Gareth Williams, and Gareth Williams behind there, and with William Foyle very close after him as they make their way onto another lap. And Gareth Williams, the fastest of anybody, he's just at the fastest lap of the race, a 2:04.7 flat, and really showing that pace now. I think Gareth Williams now stepping it up a gear now that that momentum is coming to him. We're just looking into the chat there, and we can see a number of you talking about in the YouTube chat in particular with respect to the Audi R8 in particular being a very strong car, but at the same time a very tricky car to drive. And also a comment there from Stuart Taylor and I believe Liam Tack Ali with regards to the Ford GT. We're looking quite heavy, and the Ford GT quite a tricky car here. And I think what has happened to Nigel Stock, to be fair, I think as he's gone over the mountain, he's just overworked the tyres slightly, and also the front brakes are not giving him what he wants anymore, and as a result he's trying to bring the car back into prime condition, because it does seem to struggle over the mountain, the Ford GT, as we see that Sean Scooter going a little bit deep on exit of Quarry, of the cutting. They're coming up through Quarry Bend now, I should say, get my names right, and I think that Nigel Stock is just trying to keep it all together and keep it under momentum as he makes his way on through, as we see, and say hello to Matt Evans in the YouTube chat there, saying the BMW was a safe option, but a bit of a boring car at times. The M4 does seem to be one of the most stable cars out on the circuit, and particularly front engine rear drive, typically more a stable car because it's prone to understeer rather than oversteer. But right now, the race has calmed down a little bit. Well, I say it's calmed down, and then Sean Scooter, I think, has had a major moment into the wall. We didn't quite see that. He just disappeared off camera there and got it horrifically wrong into the dipper, and that is his race all parked up. And for Sean Scooter right now, the racing team Astra driver, he will be kicking himself for that mistake. We look away for one moment, and, well, it has gone horrifically wrong. But meanwhile, further up the road, we can see Gareth Williams and Matthew Prowting here as they make their way down Conrod and into the chicane. It's Gareth Williams who comes through, and Matthew Prowting offering a form of defence, but not enough to try and keep what was Gareth Williams at bay, and in the end it is the case the two are traded places. And now the question will be whether we'll see William Foyle try and commit to a similar move very shortly. Of course, William Foyle will want to stay with Gareth Williams, the two of them great friends off circuit and very strong rivals and very strongly matched on circuit. We will wait and find out as they make their way on through. As they come charge on down at this point, they're heading up towards turn number 1. A little bit further back, what I can tell you is that Mark Sykes, the Englishman, hunting down the Irishman here, Darren Doherty. We ride on board with the Ferrari driver here as he gives pursuit. And Mark Sykes, remember what I said earlier with regards to looking a bit slow at the restart in particular, but now that he's had the opportunity to get himself up to speed, this is sometimes what it's all about for some drivers. They just focus on delivering consistent laps and gaining the places for attrition. And right now he's moved up from the back of the field to P5 in the AM class, P14 overall. He's had to make a couple of overtakes, but the majority of it, Jack Wyborn has jumped to the pits, from what I'm hearing, has just been from running it nice and safe. As we go from one Ferrari driver to another, and we jump to Paul Williams here, who is pursuing what is Nigel Stott, the Ford driver, as they make the way on through and over the mountain here. And will Paul Williams, the Team Tetra Rouge driver, has been hunting Nigel Stott relentlessly over the last couple of laps. And to be fair, these two great rivals. We've seen plenty of battling between the two of them this season. I think we're in for a treat once again here at Bathurst in terms of these two coming together whenever they get near one another. There's great respectful racing. As you see Paul Williams, they're going a bit too high on the entry curve there into McPhillamy, and actually lifting the front right side of the car a bit too much. You saw the understeer as he tried to turn in. Our drivers had to be very careful of that on that in the outside curve, I should say, as they make the way on through. But you can see the difference there with regards to Nigel Stott. He seems now to be in a bit of a more comfortable position with the car as they make the way on down. And as a result, as there's some more brake dust coming up there from Nigel Stott, I do think that Stock is overworking those front brakes on that Ford GT, and that is what's causing the problems into Forest Elbow, because it does look as though that car is not stopping as they make the way on down and heading all the way down towards what is the chase once again. But as we go from them so a bit further back, I can tell you that Mark Baker has gained the lead. He has passed Davide Favo, and now the Team Tetra Rouge driver here leading the AM class, and he's leading by only a second right now as we see Racing Team Astra in hot pursuit behind the Racing Team Astra army, really, with Davide Favo being at the tip of the spear, and right behind the body of the spear you could say is Stefan Vessels as they make the way on down, and Vessels is going to take the place of his teammate. And I think that might be a little bit of team, oh goodness me, I was going to say that's team orders, but that was not a team orders moment, as there was a bit of a tap to the rear of Stefan Vessels, and Davide Favo, I think, tried to cut back, expecting Vessels to carry a lot of pace, but in doing so the two of them have had a little bit of a situation where they've cleared it now, and I don't think there was any malice between the two teammates, but that is not the way they wanted it to go. Vessels has got himself up into P2, but in return Darren Doherty and Mark Sykes have put themselves between him and Davide Favo. As I think there, Mark Sykes going very deep under braking, and in fact Mark Sykes I think locking up completely and losing places, so a couple of mistakes on AM drivers as they make the way on through. As we say hello in the YouTube chat there to Carl Oosthuizen as we see him in the chat, and indeed hope you're doing well, Carl. As meanwhile our drivers continue on here, and indeed Skyline has taken two RTA drivers so far. It's taken Sean Scooter and also Davide Favo in this race as they make their way on around, and as they continue to do so at this point, it is the case that Mark Sykes soldiering on as Matthew Prowting has also had a major moment. He has been passed by William Foyle. We didn't quite catch that on camera, but Matthew Prowting has had a mother of all moments as they make the way on through and around the circuit once again. Now, as Prowting continues on, we do look to what is Nigel Stott here and Paul Williams. Paul Williams getting much closer in the rundown Skyline here this time as they come through the dipper and heading up towards Forest Elbow. Well, I think Nigel Stott's got this one this time around, but it does look as though Paul Williams is gaining a rapid rate of knots here, and these two, the two closest drivers on the circuit, if you exclude our leaders as well, and as they make the way roaring on down towards Conrod, it is the case that right now, well, Nigel Stock has got the run on the straight, but I think if Paul Williams can get a bit closer over the mountain, it won't be long before that straight line speed advantage is no longer a significant advantage as they make their way on down and head in towards the chicane once again. But we look from them to our leaders here, and well, they've been running in formation for some time. It is the case of the Next Gen Racing Army right at the front of the top three here, Jamie Dory, Lee Horn and Paul Scott. Paul Scott about 1.7 seconds back off of the top two, and they're running very comfortably as they make their way through. But Matthew Prowting into the pits now. We think he's got damage to the car, Matthew Prowting, but at the same time, he is now within the reverse strategy window where he could take what we've typically seen. What we mean by reverse strategy is this could also act as a scheduled stop for him, because what we saw in the Apex Racing Academy lobby in particular was that a number of drivers opted to run the first 50 minutes before pitting, and then they made their second pit stop with approximately so in the region of 30 minutes remaining. So that is something that Matthew Prowting could be looking to do. He could look to flip his strategy upside down in order to try and get himself back into the race with the repair work. Mark Sykes, by the way, has just passed Davide Favo. He's up into P4 in the AM class here, P12 overall as he makes his way on up the mountain, and as they head all the way up towards what is Griffiths Bend once again, it is the case that Mark Sykes really enjoying the racing here by the looks of things as he makes his way down, and Matthew Prowting has just left the pit lane from what we're gathering. As they make the way on up, another driver who we haven't talked about too much recently is Liam Tack here, down in P17. That is P7 in class right now, the privateer, in quite a wounded Martini Racing Ferrari as he makes his way, and I do think he comes through now. He comes through Murray's corner here and just trying to keep the laps coming on in, but as he soldiers on. No retirements in this race so far. Chris Keenan, our last place driver, who is 3 laps down. I think they're doing a lot of repair work to Chris Keenan's car. It has had to be towed back on to the pit lane as they make the way through. And meanwhile, as we can see Liam Tack making his way now up the mountain straight, we look a bit further up the order to Stuart Taylor, who after that dismal start when he got it all wrong going through McPhillamy, and fortunately was the only car to be involved in that incident, he literally caused his own incident and as a result paid the price for it, you could argue. The TGC Racing driver is making a great recovery drive so far, and he is only, speaking at this point in time, 11.5 seconds off of Paul Williams in P7 in the Pro class and P7 overall. So Stuart Taylor doing a fantastic job to bring himself back into the proceedings here. He is giving it his all right now. In terms of his pace, he is lapping at the same pace as our leaders right now. He's not quite on the pace of Gareth Williams and William Foyle, who are 0.2 faster to 0.4 faster than him on average, but he is pushing all in as they make the way on down. And behind that, Stefan Vessels there, the AM driver, AM champion of course, who is just giving pursuit here and using Stuart Taylor as his pace car, and I think also to do a little bit of fuel saving if he thinks he's getting a bit too close. As they make the way on through and into the final corner once again, we look from them to a bit further up the road once more, and we look to Paul Williams here, who continues his pursuit of Nigel Stock and flashing his lights there, I think trying to distract a little bit as they make the way up. And we are hearing that Stuart Taylor has just been passed by what is Stefan Vessels as we look away for a very brief moment, and well, it is the case that Paul Williams giving that pursuit as they make the way up into Griffiths Bend this time around, and very close here as they come through the right hander, but then losing out of course under that heavy braking zone. It's only natural in the dirty air of the car in front, and as they make the way in 2 turns 3 and 4, we do say hello in the YouTube chat there to Billy Goat Boy. Hope you're doing well, Billy Goat Boy, who's going with a wheelbarrow for season 3, and I wonder if that's a nickname for other cars that will be up on offer if he's going to be expecting that car to be in the list. Of course, the details have not yet been published about season 3, and as they make the way on through, we can see that Paul Williams are soldiering on here, but not close enough to look for the move. These two being two of our closest drivers out on the circuit right now. And of course, as we see Mark Baker just a little bit further back here, the lead driver in the AM class, and Team Tetraruge's AM driver making his way on around right now. And as he makes his way over Skyline here, enjoying the race, and I think in a very comfortable position. As Davide Favo has had a moment, and well, that's Davide Favo into the wall, and that's Matthew Prowting, who's come up into Quarry corner, not Quarry, my apologies, the cutting blindsided, and Elwyn Sykes as well, and Racing Team Astra here are having the worst possible day they could ask for at what is Bathurst, as we see there, that is a jump to the pits from Darren A. Father, and Elwin Sykes tries to get himself back up to speed, and well, that is Jack Wyborn who makes his way on through and laps himself there, but my goodness, that is a disaster, as meanwhile we can see here it is the case that Paul Scott letting Gareth Williams on through, and William Foyle now giving pursuit as they make the way and charging across that timing line once again. Well, it's the case that the next gen racing drivers are enjoying a very happy day down under, but meanwhile Racing Team Astra is having a nightmare, as meanwhile Lee Horn takes the lead of this race over Jamie Dury, who's had a slow run out of Hell's Corner. They go straight up towards now what is the Griffiths Bend, going up the mountain straight here, but it is the case next gen racing P1 through to P4, and it is William Foyle who is giving pursuit in P5. And the mountain is claiming drivers, and well, it is a disaster for Racing Team Astra, who were hoping, of course, to wrap up the team championship here and were looking good in terms of their placement, but we'll have to wait to see how they come back later on. But it has not gone their way so far, as right now Next Gen Racing looking very in control of this one, and Lee Horn enjoying being the lead driver, no doubt about that. But we look from them to what is further down the order, and that is Elwin Sykes here, as we can see Stefan Vessels. Oh goodness me, and what on earth has happened to Stefan Vessels? Well, we can't take a look back, but that car absolutely, that's a disaster for the South African. I wonder if there's been contact with the wall coming out of the final corner of Forest Elbow, but it's gone horribly wrong. You can see Gav Mills there to take evasive action at the last possible one. Of course, he won't have been expected to see the Ferrari going slow, but my goodness, Racing Team Astra having one of the worst days, in fact their worst day in this series, but they can bring it back. They've got the time as they're going to be piling into the pits. There's Elwin Sykes going in. Darren A. Farmo's a lap down in the pits right now. He's been towed back. They're going to have to do a lot of work on those cars. I'm sure the duct tape will be out in its plentiful in terms of trying to put things back together. As meanwhile we look from them to a little bit further up the order, and after we just saw a brief lag spike there in the replay file, we can see it's Darren Doherty who gets it wrong over the mountain and taps the wall. And well, Darren Doherty having a moment, as meanwhile we can see Paul Williams here side by side with Nigel Stock in the long run down what is Conrad here, and as they make the way on down the straight this time, it's going to be the long run down towards the chase. I think this is built up coming out of Forest Elbow. It's going to be the Ferrari driver on the outside as they come down, and he'll be on the inside into the braking zone, and he's got it nailed under the braking here. Now will Nigel Stock coming back? He parks on apex as Paul Williams, but Nigel Stock of course will have the acceleration, and as they make the way down towards the final corner, well, I think Nigel Stock at this point is just going to have to wait and watch as we ride on board with the Ford GT driver. As they make the way on out of the final corner and go charging up towards turn number one once again, it is the case that as they come on in, Nigel Stock now has got to try and find a way to get the best possible exit here and then get back on to the offensive, but it does not look as though he's had the exit he wanted. In fact, he's dropped back by a further 1.5 temps on the exit out of turn one, and now the long run up the mountain straight towards Griffiths Bend, and as they head in towards turn number two, he's going to start gaining, but it's from way too far back. And as they make their way into that braking zone, I think Nigel Stock is now going to have to wait patiently and look for things to open up on the strategy as they make their way on through. But it is the case that Paul Williams gaining that advantage over his rival, and now in to P6 in the Pro Class and overall as the Team Tetra Rouge driver as they make the way on through. But as they come charging on out now and heading through what is a quarry and now going up towards McPhillamy, it is the case that both of these drivers, of course, are giving it everything here to try and then go hunting after the top five. But the top five quite well out the road, the best part 14.5 seconds up the road as they make the way on a round. And as we can see here, Paul Williams doing everything he can to break away from Nigel Stock. As they come on over, and we can see there in the Twitch chat, We Love saying it's a nightmare for Team RTA and the mountain is not being kind. Indeed, it is the case that the mountain is being very unkind to a number of drivers, but Racing Team Astra seems to be the ones with the worst possible luck of all. But meanwhile, back up front, we can see it is the case that our top five are gradually concertinaing together now, with the fact all five separated by only 2 seconds from P1 to P5, and Lee Horn defending versus Jamie Dury. The gloves are coming off here with 46 minutes of racing complete, and with the safety car, it does mean that our drivers can go a bit longer in that opening stop. Now, will we see anybody peel into the pits? No, we do not, but we do see William Foyle look for the move up the inside of Paul Scott. He's going to tick one off, and as they make the way on through, it's the case that William Foyle now will have to look in his rearview mirror to see if Paul Scott will try and come back in. And as they make their way in towards turn number one, it's the case that William Foyle gains the position and now breaks his way on out and heads up the mountain straight. Now as they go charging on up towards turn number two, it is the case that William Foyle here will now try and hunt down Gareth Williams. But meanwhile, we can see Jamie Dory coming through side by side with Lee Horn in the battle for the lead. It's Dory on the inside as they make the way up into Griffiths. He gets it done under braking, but Lee Horn, well, as we get a small little bit of latency there. It is the case that Lee Horn just tucking in behind, not battling this one back. The two of them swap places once again as they make their way through and into the cutting. As they come through the left-hander for the 20th time of asking here. 47 minutes complete. Of course, the drivers will be figuring out their pit stops. And these are the closest drivers on the circuit right now. Our top 5 very close together. And as they make the way in the long run round towards McPhillamy Park right now, it's anyone's guess how these guys are going to play on out once, of course, we have those pit stops played. But Paul Scott falling back a little bit as they make the way on around. And meanwhile, a bit further down the order, I can tell you that Stuart Taylor's up on his side. More, I do not know how that's happened. I think Stuart Taylor's lost the rear end coming out of what was Griffiths Bend and then gone into the inside wall. And we'd love to be able to tell you exactly how it's happened, but we can't. But Stuart Taylor putting it up on 2 wheels in the end, and not for good measure. But meanwhile, we do look back to our top 5 who all run in sequence here, all in a single camera shot as they make the way on down onto Conrod here, and we ride on board with Paul Scott in particular, who really does have the best view in house in terms of watching the whole pack and giving that pursuit as they make the way down towards the chase this time around. Now, as they come down at this point, of course, what Paul Scott needs to think about here is, can he potentially look for the cheeky undercut in terms of, can he do a little bit of fuel saving behind these guys if they do hold one another up, or does he just pit before them and gain track position if they continue to fight? We'll be interested to see who peels on him. We do have a little dummy there to the pits. That was from Jamie Dory, who decided to fake come into the pits to try and get one of the other drivers behind to go into the pits intentionally, but they all stay out once again. They're all waiting to see who is going to pull the trigger and reveal the first card in their hand in this poker game of pit stops as they make the way on around. But right now the top 5 very close in the Pro Class and overall as they make the way onto another lap. Onto lap 21 they go. Meanwhile, further back, leading the AM Class still and enjoying this one, it would seem at the moment, is Mark Baker, who is 11 seconds ahead of second place man Darren Doherty and running very comfortably as he makes his way across that timeline, heads into turn number 1. Behind him, Darren Doherty, the Irishman here, continue to build pace, and in terms of the relative between the two of them, they are matching lap times right now. So I think for Darren Doherty, he may be looking to just gradually close up in terms of over time inch himself closer, but he's going to need to extract a couple more attempts a lap in order to begin that closing process, because right now he is matching the lap times of Mark Baker, but he is not outpacing him. As meanwhile, Mark Sykes here in P3 and what is the AM class here, P10. Well, Mark Sykes enjoying one of his better races of the season as he makes his way through turn 1. If you want to recall, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Sykes, if my memory does serve me correctly, are one of our winners, our AM class winner in the sprint at Daytona in the opening round, and since then he hasn't quite been able to replicate that form that we saw at the start of the season. But could this be a return to the podium for the Englishman as he makes his way up the mountain straight and in towards Griffiths Bend? Well, only time will tell. He's still got a lot of time to go. He's still got just over an hour of racing, but it is looking good for Mark Sykes. Is into the wall there. That is Racing Team Astra's own Davide Farvo, just going a bit too deep and putting the car up into the air off of the wall, and it is not going well for Racing Team Astra at all, as Mark Sykes sliding into the wall there almost under braking, and a lot of drivers having a lot of difficulty. But meanwhile, one driver who's not having difficulty and instead going on the offensive here is Gareth Williams alongside Lee Horn as they make their way down to the braking zone, and it is the case that our championship winner in the Pro Class here picking off another position, as we're hearing that Liam Tack is into the pits from P5 in the AM class, and that was from P14 overall. And there's Jamie Dory coming in, and William Foyle comes in behind him. So the two Audi drivers decide it is time to come into the pits. They will get the undercut on their 3 peers they've been racing with, but it is now Gareth Williams who leads his first lap of this race as he takes it his way and goes on to turn number 1, going into Hell's Corner here. Behind him is Lee Horn and Paul Scott as they make their way on around. And I do wonder whether these 3 will react come the end of this lap to the pit stops being made by Jamie Dory and William Foyle. Also into the pits comes Paul Williams from P6 here. The Team Tetra Rouge driver deciding enough's enough, and Nigel Stock stays out here to try and take track position. Behind him you can see Mark Baker there in the rear of your picture. It is the case that we do have some split strategies occurring as Mark Baker comes on through as well, and he's going to try and take this one as long as possible as Darren Doherty comes in from P2 in the AM class. And meanwhile, what about Mark Sykes? Does he make his way on in? Well, we'll find out in very short order as they come on through. And well, as he makes his way all the way in, does he peel into the pits? He does indeed. So really we are entering that opening pit stop phase as Stuart Taylor comes out of the pits after another long pit stop to do repair work on the car. But now we do wait, and it's Jamie Dory who leaves his pit box first. But what about William Foyle? Well, Foyle was up on the jack, so Foyle is deciding to put all the tyres on now rather than later. At least 2 of them, but I think that's all 4 tyres going onto the car. And in doing so, William Foyle is now going earlier on that tyre change. I think he wants all the tyre grip he can, and it is the same for Paul Williams here. Both of them are going for tyre changes, but meanwhile, Jamie Dory, of course, only putting fuel in the car, now soldiering on here as he makes his way on around and comes through turn at number 2. But William Foyle has left the pit lane, but he has come out behind Alistair Kirk here. And Alistair Kirk is going to be no easy driver to pass, but do remember that Alistair Kirk has already made 1 pit stop to do repair work to the car. Now, whether he put fuel in the car or not during that pit stop, that is, of course, the question. But if he had put fuel in, it will not be as much as what he could have potentially put in. That's the big quandary. So as is up for Alistair Kirk now, it is a case about just managing his race. And for William Foyle, he'll be hoping, with there being 9.6 seconds between the two of them, that he's not going to catch up to the TGC racing driver any time soon, for the simple reason if he catches him too soon, that is going to spell a lot of problems in terms of him losing race time. Darren Doherty, who we talked about coming into the pits, as we see that Lee Horne and Paul Scott are coming into the pits as well. And Gareth Williams has stayed out for another lap. He's going the longest of anybody. Well, I can tell you that these two coming on, and it's the case that Darren Doherty has come out in P3 in the AM class after his pit stop. And by the sounds of things, it was definitely a fuel stop, but we're not sure about the tyres. He may have just changed too, but it does look as though right now Paul Scott and also Lee Horne coming in to the pits as now they make the way on in here. And we can see at William Foyle, they were very heavy. Well, not William Foyle, my apologies. Jack Wyborn with a very heavily crumpled Mercedes that has seen better days, and I think Chris Keenan, they're not able to get that car out of the pits, which is a disaster. Into the pits as well comes Mark Baker and also Nigel Stockin. So these are all the scheduled stops. Now, where is Jamie Dory in all of this as he makes his way past the pit entry here, coming on down into the final corner as he makes his way through? Where will Lee Horne and, well, also Paul Scott be as he makes his way across that timeline? They're not leaving their pit boxes yet as we see Jamie Dory coming through, but Lee Horne is now leaving his pit box. It's going to be very close between the two of them, and as the camera very shortly pans round, it will be the case. I think Lee Horne's just about edged Jamie Dory there, despite the fact that Dory pitted 1 lap earlier, and as they make the way on through, it is the case that Lee Horne has gained that advantage, but Jamie Dory is going to be coming back in very quickly, and as they make the way up into braking into turn number 2, it's Jamie Dory on the inside, Lee Horne on the outside, and Dory goes all in here under braking and gets the position back immediately then. Lee Horne not offering too much of a defence, I think recognising that Gareth Williams is the one they need to worry about, and Paul Scott has just come out behind them just a little bit further back. But meanwhile, William Foyle, of course, going for that tyre change, is absolutely flying right now, I can tell you, as they make the way on around. And William Foyle, to give you an idea of the pace he is running, well, he is already stripped out of Alistair Kirk, because we're getting a little bit of a latency spike there a couple of times. And I do apologise, ladies and gentlemen, those will disappear very shortly. But meanwhile, hold up a second, as we are continuing to get some latency issues. Jamie Dory has got it very wrong there by looks of things. I think there was a spin going through turn number 9, and well, he's now got it back together, but Jamie Dory has lost to Paul Scott and Lee Horne here as he makes his way on through, and as he comes on down through the dipper right now, well, Jamie Dory's had it all go wrong there, but meanwhile Gareth Williams is in to the pits as you can see Jamie Dory coming on down. And again, we are getting some slight latency issues here with the replay file, ladies and gentlemen, but they should go away in the near future. Well, I would hope so, because otherwise that's going to spoil a little bit of the consistency of our viewing, but we will try and put the pieces in together. And we can see Gareth Williams into the pits right now and not going up on the jacks here, so deciding to put the fuel in, and only the fuel we believe, although we have got some time before he would be on the jacks, so they'll be putting the fuel in first. And we can see that Lee Horne here holding on to P2 as he makes his way around and down into Murray's corner here as he comes down to the braking zone for the final corner, and as he rolls the car on down, it is the case that he makes his way on through, keeping it nice and smooth as he makes his way out. And as he comes across that timing line, what about Gareth Williams? Will he be emerging from the pit lane? We're not seeing anything so far. I think Lee Horne's going to take this one. In fact, that's Gareth Williams up on the jacks there. So Gareth Williams doing a William Foyle. Now, where is William Foyle in all of this? Well, here is William Foyle, the Crystal Autosport driver who dared to change tyres in his opening pit stop. And as he makes his way through the final corner here, we're almost at the halfway point of the race. We can see it is the case the Crystal Autosport driver. Well, Gareth Williams is leaving his pit box right now, but William Foyle meanwhile making his way on through, and it is going to be Foyle who gets the undercut here, and he's nailed it as William Foyle. He's nailed this one perfectly because he has got ahead of Gareth Williams, and there behind them is Liam Tack, who is a lap down right now, and I'm hearing that he has had a penalty for speed in the pit lane, which is why Liam Tack has lost a lot of race time. But right now the privateer is just watching on, P17 at P7 in class, as he makes his way up the hill and into Griffiths Bend once again. as he comes on through that. Oh my goodness, it's that by looks, and that is Gareth Williams. Surely that's not Gareth Williams, who's just got it wrong into the wall, and the rear of the car has just come loose into the wall there at Griffiths Bend. And well, what was looking to be an uphill battle in terms of hunting down William Foyle is now an even bigger uphill battle with damage to the rear of the car there, and that's on cold tyres. And we saw that with Billy Fletcher last night in the Apex Racing Academy lobby, where the rear of the car just came loose under braking into Griffiths Bend, and that was in the Audi R8, a car that we'd expect to come much looser under braking compared to the BMW. But even the most stable of GT3 cars sometimes will go, and it's the case that Gareth Williams has had a moment, and that is going to cost him massively as they make the way on through. But meanwhile, we look a bit further up the road, and we've got Alistair Kirk and Matthew Prowting have been involved in an instant by looks. Well, Matthew Prowting definitely, as he gets himself out of the way at Forest Elbow, a nasty corner to lose it. And Prowting, who was running so well all the way up in P4, it has gone horrific all of a sudden. It's gone from good to bad to a nightmare, and now he's got to try and bring things back together. Well, here's the case, we're getting some drama, and that is simply through drivers getting it wrong at the worst possible moment as they make the way on around. Now, excuse me there, ladies and gentlemen, just taking a very quick sip of water as we are heading up towards now what is the second hour of this race. We're only 2 minutes away from transitioning beyond the halfway point, but William Foyle here getting very close to the back of Nigel Stock and looking for the move up the inside as the Crest Autosport driver, and Nigel Stock not offering a defence. And I think Stock looking for that cutback, but he almost loses the rear of the car there. A bit of snap oversteer on power, and as he makes his way down to the braking zone here for turn number 1, he's going to look up the inside as the Ford GT driver, but I do not think he's close enough. Foyle gives him the space, but as they now emerge, where it's all about the Ford power, and this is where the Ford excels in straight line acceleration in the lower gears. And as they make the way charging on up the mountain straight here, it's going to be a long drag race. You can see the Audi now starting to come back in through 4th and 5th gear as they make the way in, but William Foyle's going to have to go all in on the brakes here to gain that advantage. Will he be able to do it? Foyle is going to go win. He goes a little bit deep, but he brings the car to the apex nicely, and Nigel Stock gives him the space and not able to cut back or find a way on through. And as they make the way on up right now, we ride on board here with William Foyle looking back from the gearbox of the Audi R8 as he comes through the left-hander. It's an naturally aspirated V10 versus All-American V6 muscle as they make the way on around, and we can see it is the case that now William Foyle immediately making that break as they make the way over and through and down towards McPhillips. We've got Stuart Taylor there grinding along the wall, staying out of everybody's way, and as they come on through, we can see already William Foyle just dropping Nigel Stock like a fly as they make their way over to Skyline here, and well, William Foyle just flying. He knows now this is potentially his to lose, with Gareth Williams having that major moment and William Foyle having already made that tyre change. He's just now got to keep it together and put in lap after lap. Now, we have had clarification in what is the YouTube chat from what is there Alistair Kirk with regards to the incident we saw with Matthew Prowting only moments ago, with Alistair Kirk having to take evasive action waiting for what was Matthew Prowting to move because he was blocking the circuit at what was Forest Elbow. So we just had that clarified. Thank you, Alistair, in the YouTube chat. As we're hearing there in the Facebook chat from Martin's Feet. Hope you're doing well, Martins. But right now, as our drivers make the way around, we can see Elwyn Sykes here and Stefan Vessels trading places. Well, Elwyn Sykes giving away to Stefan Vessels as they come on through, and Racing Team Astra trying to bring this race back under control for them in terms of the Teams Championships. It has gone horrifically wrong at the moment, and well, I can tell you that Sean Scooter in P3 in the AM class, but he does not count in terms of the points haul for Racing Team Astra because he is their 4th driver. Instead, it is Stefan Vessels, Elwyn Sykes and Davide Favo, and they are currently running P4, P5 and P7 in class, and was looking at Elwyn Sykes in particular as he makes his way up towards McPhillips. As he makes his way on through, we do look down towards Davide Favo, who has been in the wars, but he's not in them at the moment as we reach the halfway point of this race. And as he makes his way charging down and into turn number 23, it is the case just trying to keep it together as he comes on through and trying to build up a little bit more pace, but he's got a long way to go to catch up to Mark Sykes, and that is a gap of 54.5 seconds. But now as we do reach the halfway point of the race, it's only fair that we do give you a quick run through of our order in terms of how our drivers are ordered at this point in time, and also a little bit of a status update with regards to their races. So we start from the top, and we start with Lee Horn here, the Next Gen Racing driver, as he makes his way on down. He's joined the series quite late, more as a guest driver, but he's running the Porsche 911 GT3, and as he makes his way through the dip up towards Forest Elbow, he started this one towards the front. Of course, Stuart Taylor started off stronger and got the advantage, but Stuart Taylor yielded the position in the end for an unfortunate incident. And as a result, Lee Horn since then has really been right up there with his peers battling for the lead, and he has been the one to keep it very clean, very consistent through and through as he makes his way down Conrad this time. And just behind him is Paul Scott, the BMW M4 driver from Next Gen Racing as well, much similar to Lee Horn. He hasn't quite been on the pace of Lee Horn necessarily in the BMW M4, although I say that he is closing at a rapid rate of knots, but it is the case the two of them have been right up there, and they've been keeping it clean, they've been keeping it consistent, and their opening pit stop was just a fuel stop. Jamie Dory in P3 giving pursuit here, perhaps one of the fastest drivers out on circuit, but he made a mistake into turn 2. Was not at turn 2, my apologies. He made a mistake over turn 9 where the car spun over the rise of turn 9 in the left-hander. Now he's trying to recover this race. And then in P4 is Alistair Kirk, who, having made quite an early pit stop, we do believe that Alistair Kirk may potentially be free stopping this one. And right now Alistair Kirk doing everything he can to bring himself through this race. He's had to recently avoid Matthew Prowting, and that's why he's fallen a little bit back off of Jamie Dory, but he's soldiering on all the same, the TGC Racing driver. P5 is William Foyle. Now William Foyle is the driver we do reckon could potentially be picking up a major gain in this race at the moment, because he is, out of our top 5, the only driver who went for a tyre change in his opening pit stop. Everybody else just went for a fuel. He has also gone for the tyre change, and as a result we could imagine that William Foyle now is pushing to try and close down the leaders and therefore gain on them naturally through that tyre change. We then got Nigel Stock in P6, and it is the case the Ford GT driver soldiering on as best he can right now. And if you are wondering why it's not Paul Williams ahead of him, we'll come on to that very shortly. Matthew Prowting just behind in P7. He was running in P4, but then he had a spin at Forest Elbow, and he's bringing himself back up to speed with damage to the car, and he's only taken on fuel in the pits, much like Nigel Stock. Then we have P8, and that is Darren Doherty, our AM class leader right now, soldiering on at a very consistent pace and doing everything right, it would seem, so far, albeit he's gained the lead from Mark Baker through the pit stops, and now he is continuing to press on here, the Irishman, and really trying to make this race his own. Behind him in P9 is the pro driver of Paul Williams. Now, he was ahead of Nigel Stock before the pit stops, but he did speed in the pit lane, and as a result had to take a time penalty in the pits, a 30-second time penalty, and that is why he is so far back from Nigel Stock and Matthew Prowting now. So that explains why the Team Tetrarouge driver is effectively out of position compared to where we would expect him to be. Then we have Mark Baker, P2 in the AM class, P10 overall. Just behind his pro teammate is the AM Team Tetrarouge driver, and right now pressing on and keeping it nice and clean and consistent, and chasing after Darren Doherty as best as he can, with Sean Scudder completing the top 3 of the AM class currently. The Racing Team Astra outfit having a disaster here. All 4 Racing Team Astra drivers having been involved in some sort of heavy damage moment around here, and Sean Scudder, the leading Racing Team Astra driver, and trying to chase down Mark Baker with a gap of 15 seconds to close down. He's brought it down to 14.5 seconds in the last 2 laps as he gets a little bit of oversteer there on the exit of what was McPhillamy, and Alistair Kirk is into the pits for his scheduled stop, we believe, after his opening stop to repair damage. Stefan Vessels, meanwhile, P4 in class, and as he makes his way on around right now, Stefan Vessels, our AM Championship winner, of course, and trying to do everything for Racing Team Astra to bring home the team championship, much like his teammates at this point in time, trying to bring things back together after a rare mistake and well claimed by the mountain. Elwyn Sykes, his teammate just behind him, P5 in AM, P13 overall, and Elwyn Sykes having a couple of moments as well. Racing Team Astra really not having a good day at the office here, with Mark Sykes a further distance down the road of 12 seconds, and here's the Next Gen Racing orange driver, enjoying a very consistent race so far as he makes his way on around through turn number 9 and heading up towards McPhillamy, and as he makes his way on through P14 and just keeping his head down, and he's put fuel in the car but not too much else, although he has had 3 pit stops in fact, and I think that shows you the rate of attrition for the AM class. Gareth Williams, P15 meanwhile, and well, to explain with Gareth Williams, he did have contact into the wall, and it is the situation that he binned it a little bit later on as well, from what we're hearing in the chat from Jamie Dory in the YouTube chat, and as a result he was towed back to the pits to do repair work to the car, and that's why he's now a lap down on the leaders, which is very unfortunate for our Pro Championship winner as of round number 11, and just trying to end the season on a high, but it's the case it's not going to be that perfect high, with Davide Favo P16, and another one of the Racing Team Astra drivers who has been involved in a number of nasty moments here at Mount Panorama. Gareth Mills, meanwhile, P17, P8 in the AM class, and after what was a very strong start, one moment saw it all fall apart, it would seem, and now he's trying to recover this race and hunt down Davide Favo, but he is the best part of 10.5 seconds down on his rival for P4 in the AM Championship come the end of today. We then have Stuart P. Taylor, who has been in the wars time and time again, and well, we will come back to Stuart Taylor shortly, because right now we have Matthew Prowting battling with Nigel Stock as they make the way down the Conrod Straight and into the chase. And it's going to be Prowting on the outside, Nigel Stock on the inside as they make the way into the chicane here, into that left-hander, and Prowting getting it done on the brakes, and Nigel Stock just not able to outbrake his rivals. And I do think with Nigel Stock on that Ford GT, those front brakes are just not offering the retardation that he would like, and instead it is the case of the Englishman. He's having to protect the brakes, which is a nasty place to be when you're racing hard and fast with other drivers, because it means when you go into these heavy braking zones, where you can imagine coming down Conrod into the chase, our drivers are coming down from in excess of 160 mile an hour all the way down to approximately 65 miles an hour by the time they go into the apex of what is turn 21. And having to brake down 100 miles an hour speed on a set of brakes that you cannot rely on because they are getting so hot and they're fading away, that is not what you want. And well, for Nigel Stock right now, it is not a comfortable place, as we do get a little bit of a latency issue there. Hopefully it will not come back. We've had a couple of those, but we are monitoring it. And as we can see, Nigel Stock here giving that pursuit is the case, just hunting after Matthew Prowting. But I think Prowting is going to gradually eke this one out. Coming back through the order then in P18, Stuart P. Taylor, who, as we said earlier on, started off on pole in the Pro class with the reverse championship grid order. And as he makes his way through Forest Elbow, made a mistake coming through turn number 9 and into 10 through McPhillamy, and ended up in the wall on the exit McPhillamy. Fortunate enough to be the only driver involved in that incident, i.e. himself. Went to the back of the field, and since then he's been trying to recover this one, but he has had a number of further moments where it's gone horribly wrong, and continuing to press on as he makes his way down into the chase here. So it's the case of Stuart Taylor just trying to bring this one back together and end on the best possible positive he can find as he makes his way on through. We then do have Liam Tack in P19 here, the privateer in the Martini Racing Williams coloured Ferrari, and it is the case that since his pit stop he had a speeding penalty in the pit lane where he had to wait in his pit box for a sizable amount of time, 30 seconds, and it has just not come back to Liam Tack since then as it goes a little bit deep into turn number 1. We then do have Jack Wyborn, who has retired from this race, and also we have had the retirement of Chris Keenan, and it is the case we've lost 2 drivers and we still do have 19 drivers. I do believe that Chris Keenan is in the pit lane, to be fair, but they are not bringing the car back out again. The Belgian, unfortunately, the BMW has had to be retired due to technical issues on the car. I believe it is an engine failure and they're not going to be able to get repaired. So we had 21 starters, we now have 19 remaining, and we still do have the best part of 51 minutes remaining in this race. And right now we are waiting for the second round of pit stops to see how the complexion of the field changes, as Liam Tack does go a little bit deep there, under braking into the cutting. And what I will say at this point, the big question will be, as we see Darren Doherty here, the AM class leader, making his way in to Murray's Corner. The big question that we do have hanging over all of our drivers at this point is how the pit stops will play out and when they're choosing to pit. Now, as we are seeing Darren Doherty make his way across the line, we are hearing that Gareth Mills has actually found his way past Davide Favo. And what has happened to Favo as he makes his way down? Well, Favo going quite slowly, in fact. We're just taking a look at Favo's car here, and there's steering rack damage to Favo's car. That car is not going well. I think he's been into the wall coming out Forest Elbow, because that car is pulling very hard to the right, and Favo just trying to creep to the pit lane here. And well, for Gareth Mills, of course, that will be good news for the South African driver, because his fellow countrymen will now be behind him with double points up for grabs. Gareth Mills just needs to gain one more place, we believe, although he is a minute and 12 seconds down, as that's Sean Scooter getting it wrong on the run out of turn 1. And my goodness, Racing Team Asher just not having the day at Bathurst. It is going horribly wrong time and time again, and what we were trying to say, pardon me, is that for Gareth Mills right now, if he can gain one more place, albeit he's got a minute and 12 seconds to hunt down versus what is Mark Sykes, he would end up taking P4 off of Davide Favo in the AM Championship when the checkered flag falls. But right now, with the field quite spaced out, we are waiting to see when that second pit stop comes in, and we are expecting that second round of pit stops to occur with approximately 30 minutes remaining. For some drivers, it may be with only 20 minutes remaining, but when those pit stops do occur, the scheduled ones, it is going to be very frantic down the pit lane, and the whole field will start to shake up once again. As our drivers continue to make their way on around right now, it is the case as Gareth Mills makes his way through McPhillamy. We look up towards our leader, and we can see that Lee Horn here will just enjoying the race right now. He is behind Gareth Williams, who's unlapped himself partially as they make the way up the straight here, up Conrad. But of course, Gareth Williams will have the occasional blue flag waving for the simple reason he does have the leaders coming on through, but he will feel as though he can break away naturally because he's got the faster pace. But Lee Horn at this point running it very comfortably as they make the way on around, and as they head up into what is into the cutting, it does look as though Lee Horn in control of this race, but Paul Scott not too far behind him. We'll have to wait and see whether these two do kick off towards the end, but remember, William Foyle has already been up on the jacks once, and we do believe with William Foyle absolutely flying right now. To give you an idea, when we say he's absolutely flying, he's lapping in the low 205s. The only other driver lapping at that pace is Gareth Williams, who's down in P14 overall, P9 in class, and then we do have one driver who's going even faster than William Foyle and doing 204s, high 204s, and that is Alistair Kirk here, the Lamborghini driver, who has had it all go wrong. He just wants to try and get the best possible ending to his season, and when doing so, he is putting in phenomenal laps right now. He is flying out there, and well, to be fair, can you blame him when he's got nothing to hunt right now other than clear track ahead of him? He is going to be treating this as a qualifying session or a time trial session to do everything he can at 204.8 there, putting every lap to the limit. And in terms of the fastest lap, it lies with him at 204.41 as well, though I think it is shared between him and William Foyle right now, both of them having set 204.41s at some point in this race, as we see Alistair Kirk making his way up the mountain straight once again. Now, as he goes right on through, in terms of the gap he's got to try and close, it's to Paul Williams, and it is a gap at this point in time. Doing some quick mental maths, it is a gap of approximately 34 seconds to the Team Tetra Rouge Pro driver, who makes his way over Skyline and down in towards the dipper right now. And well, for Paul Williams, I think at this point all he'll be thinking about is keeping it out of the wall and trying to gradually close up to Nigel Stock. And to be fair, he is closing up to Nigel Stock by 0.7 of a second a lap. Now, based on a forecast here, I would say Paul Williams may be able to get that done over the remainder of the distance. It's going to be close, but it is possible here because he's only got that gap of what is 25 seconds to close down. I say only 25 seconds. That is, well, it seems a little bit of the incorrect way to say it, but 25 seconds, and well, it's 0.7 of a second a lap, and with what is 47 minutes remaining, take 2 minutes a lap. Doing the quick mental maths here and explain the logic as we go, that's 23 laps. He could potentially do it, although he's going to have to try and close up a little bit faster. Perhaps a second a lap would give him the advantage, plus also seeing how he can undercut in the pit stop. But meanwhile, setting his personal best this race and making his way onto another lap right now is Darren Doherty, who's looking good for the AM class win at this point in time. And soldiering on as he makes his way, charging up the mountain straight once again, but it is looking firmly in his hands. But as I said earlier, ladies and gentlemen, we are now in a bit of a quiet period of this race. The action has relented somewhat. A lot of our drivers are quite heavily spaced out. We are waiting to see when they all come back together. And meanwhile, we can see that Liam Tack is in the pits, and I do believe he has just made another pit stop, and I think he might have even served a bit of a penalty there as he does exit out of the pit lane. And well, I think Mark Sykes had a moment, and Mark Sykes into the wall there, coming out of the dipper, and Mark Sykes getting it wrong, and that is going to cost him dearly as we see William Foyle squeezing his way through there, and with Mark Sykes moving out of the way, and William Foyle will dodging the crippled AM car as he makes his way out of Forest Elba here, does William Foyle. And that will have cost him some time, but I think in Foyle's mind right now, he'll be thinking as though if he carries on this pace, it is his race to win. Now, as he makes his way down Conrad here for William Foyle, what will be going through his mind at this point, he won't be able to necessarily see Jamie Dory at this point in time, although I say that he can actually see Jamie Dory in the distance there, but William Foyle just pushing on as he makes his way over the bump there, over the apex. And I think Lee Horn's had a moment. Lee Horn has definitely had a moment at what was the final corner at Murray Corner, and as a result, that means that Paul Scott is now your race leader, and well, I think this is going to be quite a rare position for Paul Scott. I think he'll be very grateful to be leading this race as he makes his way on around. And as he does at this point in time, feeling good as he goes charging up the straight here, up towards turn number 2 once again. And what I do think that William Foyle is potentially the one to be on course to win this one based on strategy. I think Paul Scott at this point will be reveling in the fact this is definitely looking to be a strong podium finish as Mark Sykes is into the pits with damage from P15 overall. That is P6 in the AM class as they make the one through. 45 minutes remaining, and now this race is starting to just up the tempo a little bit, and the temperature's starting to get a little bit warmer in the room with regards to the fact that some drivers are now starting to experience moments, including Gareth Mills, who has just finished being repaired in the pits, as we see Mark Baker making his way across that timeline. I think Gareth Mills also going for a scheduled stop, to be fair, so I do not think it was just repair work. But we see Mark Baker closing up to his teammate here, and the two Team Tetra Rouge drivers here running in formation as they make their way up the mountain straight. And Mark Baker will not want to close up too much to Paul Williams for the simple reason he will not want to lose time with his teammate when they have to try and decide who's going to be the lead driver. But he can at this distance gain a little bit of speed down the straight, and that will give him the opportunity to do a small amount of fuel saving as he makes his way into turn number 2. Now as he comes on through and rides on through the turn number 2 and up into 3-4 here, coming up into the cutting. Looking good so far, as we see in the Facebook chat there, Lee Horn saying gutted to have that half spin, and indeed for Lee Horn right now, what was looking very good. The B-phase only 3.3 seconds down on Paul Scott, but what it does mean now, he is to a degree at the mercy of his ability to close down Paul Scott, and also with that moment, of course, he's lost overall race time, and we do not know the overall impact in terms of tyre wear. We do know that Lee Horn is yet to take his second set of tyres, so as a result, he makes his way through what is the chase there. It will be the case. I think he might be feeling a little bit of pain, a little bit of pressure on the tyres as he makes his way down into Murray's Corner, the corner where he lost it on the previous lap, and as he makes his way on through this time, a much more sensitive approach. They're staying well clear of that apex curve, and as he charges across that timing line, he's now going on to what for him is lap number 34 and trying to hunt down Paul Scott, who is gradually gaining on him. As we see him in front there, that's Elwyn Sykes, who's moving over to the side initially, and it's going to be Lee Horn who's going to tuck into the slipstream here to gain a bit of straight line speed advantage. And this gives you an idea of how long it takes the Porsche to catch the Ferrari on the straight there as they make their way up into turn number 2. Now as they make the way up, and meanwhile we do look back to Mark Baker, who's ever close to his teammates at this point. I think there might be a little swap between the two of them, or we could see one of them peel into the pits here as a reactionary stop as they make their way through, because they will not want to hold one another up. And well, it looks like Paul Williams there moving out of the way, and I think respecting the fact Mark Baker faster at this point in the race, and Paul Williams deciding to tuck one in behind his teammate. So here's the case, the pro driver giving way to his AM teammate as now they make their way back up to racing speed and go on to lap 34 themselves as they come in to Hell's Corner. As they make their way through the left-hander and up the mountain straight, a bit further down the order, we do have Sean Scudder here, who's trying to bring himself back together with a very heavily mangled rear wing. In fact, he's coming into the pits here, I think, for his scheduled stop and also to do some repair work, and that's going to drop him out of P3 with his teammate Stefan Vessels coming through and past the pit entry as he makes his way on down at this point. And as they come down into the braking zone here, it is looking as though Stefan Vessels once again trying to recover what is a run to the podium here in this single race as he makes his way across that timing line. But as he makes his way on through at this point, with Scudder coming down into his pit box, we can see Mark Sykes just behind there, albeit a lap down, still running in P6 in the AM class right now, and keeping it together as best as possible as he goes charging up the mountain straight. And everybody at this point, of course, in the natural rhythm of the race. Now, most of our drivers will be focusing very heavily on just running to their strategy, running their stint, focusing on those lap times and not looking to make any mistakes, which does mean, of course, at this point it becomes a concentration game as well. Perhaps one of the more difficult aspects, which isn't talked about as much in these longer races and these super endurance races, is the fact that concentration can come at a premium, and at any moment just a brief lapse of concentration, particularly as you make your way over the mountain at Bathurst, where those walls are ever close, it can be the case it's just one small mistake which sees you into the wall. As we see Mark Sykes keeping it nice and clean as he does hit the wall there and picks up more damage in the run through what was Quarry, and as he exited through 6 and into 7, hitting the wall, that is going to hurt him significantly on the left hand side of the car, and you can see he's struggling for turning at the moment, the left hand side not in a comfortable place, and we're talking about concentration. Well, there it goes as Mark Sykes now having to nurse this car for the rest of the lap, and it may be a brought forward pit stop as he comes on down through the dipper. We're going from him to Matthew Prowting here, currently in P5 and soldiering on, as we are hearing that Stuart Taylor's had another moment on circuit, and Gareth Williams also had a brief moment as Paul Williams has been into the pit lane, I do believe, and yet Paul Williams has come into the pit lane here, and as he makes his way on in, I think it might be the case that Paul Williams has had a little bit of a difficult run on in as Gareth Williams has jumped to the pit. So Gareth Williams has had something go very wrong, and as a result, the NXTGEN racing driver, the M4 driver, has decided it's better to tow than drive it on in with damage to the car. Stuart Taylor's also jumped to the pits, and he's up on the jacks to do repair work, and well, this is not good news for all of these drivers, as meanwhile we do look back to our race leader, and that is Paul Scott. But right now, whilst he's in the lead currently, we do suspect that P4 man William Foyle, who we now look at here, is going to be the one to re-inherit the race lead after the final round of pit stops, and he is closing extremely rapidly on Jamie Dory here. In fact, he's still lapping in the 205s, whereas everybody else around him is lapping in the 206s or the 207s. He is absolutely flying, is William Foyle, as he makes his way down Conrad. So much so you can see now how much he's gained on Jamie Dory over the space of the last 15 minutes. He's absolutely hammering lap after lap. This is phenomenal stuff from the Briton as he makes his way through the chase here with 40 minutes to go. And, well, it is the case, I think, for Crest Autosport. They will be rooting him on left, right and centre because he is delivering these laps. And as he comes on through to complete what is lap number 35, we'll wait and see what that time is going to be. For Jamie Dory, it's a 207.4, but William Foyle, it's a 205.6. So he was almost 2 seconds faster than Jamie Dory on that previous lap. He is going for it. He is going all in as we see there Paul Williams coming out of the pits, and he's now lapped down the leaders with a long stop there. As we just check his pit time, that was at 1 minute and 34 seconds. And I think it is the case that Paul Williams, having already put tyres on the car, I think it's been one of those situations where Paul Williams has had to serve some sort of penalty for coming into the pits and cutting the pit entry lines, as we are seeing in the YouTube chat there. Stuart Taylor saying that he caught the wall again, which put him into a spin, and Gaz could not avoid, and that would be Gareth Williams, referred to as Gaz Williams in short, ended up in the wall, and that explains why the two of them had to jump to the pits with damage in the end, which is very unfortunate for the pair of them. As meanwhile Mark Baker has got it very wrong coming out of the final corner, and well, that is not good reading for Team Tetra Rouge, and what was looking to be brilliant, the steering wheel's damaged, and he's just passed the pit entry. He's jumped to the pits and he's lost a whole lap. Now he's got to spend the time being quote unquote towed to the pits and then doing the repair work. But Mark Baker, my goodness, it has not gone well, and now he's got it all to do once again. But what this does mean is that Stefan Vessels is promoted to P2 in the AM class. Darren Doherty, I think, is now off in the distance effectively in the AM class lead, and Elwyn Sykes is now P3 in the AM class here, and looking at the moment, assuming everything proceeds to plan, although I dare not say it around Racing Team Astra right now through fear of the commentator's curse, if everything does proceed to plan, he will be looking at a podium and one of his season best finishes to wrap up the season. Meanwhile, William Foyle battling with Jamie Dory here in the rundown Conroe. This is a P3 overall and P3 in the Pro class. Jamie Dory looking to come back here, but he's nowhere near close enough, and Foyle has just gained massively as they make the way through the right hand there at turn 22 and come charging down towards 23 right now. And William Foyle has got the pressure from Jamie Dory, who looks at the inside here. He goes for a turn, but he gets it wrong under braking and goes a bit too deep, locks up the front, and has contact with William Foyle, who had nowhere to go in the end. He would argue, and I don't think he anticipated that Jamie Dory was going to be coming in deep on the brakes, but these two have made some contact. It seems like they've both got away with it, but that was very near the knuckle as they make the way onto the mountain straight. But they are absolutely now in a bit of a deadlock with this battle, and William Foyle needs to find his way past Jamie Dory for the simple reason that if he can, he is likely to go on to win this one as he makes his way up into turn number 2. But Jamie Dory will do anything to hold him at bay right now, of course within the rules, as they make the way through turn number 2. And we can see in the YouTube chat that we've had clarification from Paul Williams to say it was a penalty on his second pit stop. The first one was for the tyres, but we focus here on what is William Foyle. He goes all the way in, under braking, into the cutting. My goodness, when we saw earlier William Foyle taking looks up into the cutting, I think that was a very stern message there from William Foyle. This is how you go for a lunge under braking, and to be fair, the Crest Autosport driver delivering a message, and well, he is already breaking away. And how do you respond to that? That is the question. If you're Jamie Dory right now, well, I think you just have to try and hunt him and hope he makes a mistake, because Foyle is not holding back. He is going all in here, and it is showing as he makes his way down through the dipper here and now tries to break off and chase after Lee Horn, who is 6 seconds up the road as they make the way down. As they come down in towards then Forest Elbow and make the way into Comrade, you can see Foyle just literally so close to the wall, only millimetres away from the exit wall there. He is going all in as Stefan Vessels comes into the pits. Those second scheduled stops are now starting to occur. And as a result, we are expecting potential pit stops to be coming along very shortly. We can see Dory just not able to close up in the tow as they make the way down and into the chase here. And as they come roaring on down this time, well, with 35 minutes remaining and Foyle pushing it, everything, it is the situation where we can see Jamie Dory just now giving that pursuit. And as he makes his way all the way down, neither of them peel into the pit lane here. And do keep in mind, of course, ladies and gentlemen, that Jamie Dory running on tyres which are much older compared to William Foyle's, and as a result William Foyle on fresher rubber, you could argue at this point in the race, but he will have the older rubber at the end. We do have to keep that in mind, as meanwhile Lee Horn here comes into the pits for his second scheduled stop, and well, Lee Horn at this point I think will be thinking now just make the stop count and bring it home come the end. But meanwhile it's Paul Scott who continues to lead this race in a very comfortable advantage of 10.2 seconds from William Foyle. As he makes his way on through, we also do have Nigel Stock making his way into the pits as they come on through, and we can see Nigel Stock here, whereas he comes on in at the moment, the Ford GT, the Beast, just making his way into that pit lane, and as he just gradually saunters into his pit box right now, Stefan Vessels has left the pit, and we can see Lee Horn there up on the jacks and being serviced as the safety car just parked there as well, not being needed to be used since the opening lap. And we look from them to Matthew Prowting out on the circuit right now, who's still soldiering on, the Eclipse Racing driver in P7 in the class, and just carrying on in P8 overall. But meanwhile, our leader in the M class, Darren Doherty here, making his way through turn number 2 and coming up into the cutting once again here. Well, what's there to say about Darren Doherty? Because we haven't talked about him too much. Well, the reason we haven't talked about him too much is because since the start of the race, he's really just run off with things after the first round of pit stops, taking the lead off of Mark Baker, and he's never looked back since then, and he has not put a foot wrong all the way through, and it shows as the Irishman right now just cruising to the end, it would seem. He's still got a long way to go, but he is continuing to press on as he makes his way through McPhillamy here and doing everything right so far, as he now only waits for another 33 minutes to pass in his mind, and of course one more scheduled stop between then and the finish. As we see Alistair Kirk, and I think that's Lee Horn, in fact Lee Horn on cold tyres has got it wrong, coming out of turn number 2. I think it's another case of the cold tyres just catching a mid-engine rear-wheel drive car out as he tries to bring himself back up to speed. And well, the Briton here, it's very unfortunate for the next-gen racing driver from the United Kingdom, because what was looking good, but definitely a top 5 is, well, not just definitely a top 5, definitely a podium, is now at risk of becoming a top 5 with Alistair Kirk getting on past him. And Alistair Kirk, remember, is absolutely flying right now. He is throwing everything at this, including the kitchen sink, in order to bring the race back to him. He is constantly lapping in the high 204s, the low 205s here. He is in a world of his own, although I say that William Foyle has also recently been lapping in the 205s, and particularly that last lap from William Foyle, a 205.0 flat, shows you that these two, Alistair Kirk and William Foyle, are going all in, and the Lamborghini driver here just giving it everything. He's got nothing to lose, and based on where he finishes right now, that would cement his finishing position in the Pro Championship of P2 as he makes his way on down the straight here. Comes down in towards the chase once again, and you can see that Mark Baker immediately defected to the left hand side of the road to make sure not to obstruct the Pro as he comes roaring on through. Mark Baker, of course, being a lap down on the Pro drivers, they make them through, and Elwyn Sykes into the pits from P3 in the AM class here. This is a critical stop for him in order to try and bring himself onto that podium. Mark Baker, of course, making his way on around, but Mark Baker has had to make an extra pit stop due to repair work on the car. Now, has Mark Baker done all the stops he needs to is the big question, as we do see Mark Baker making his way into that P3 AM position, P11 overall, and as they come on out of turn number 1 and go charging up the hill towards turn number 2, it is the case Baker just soldiering on right now and looking to try and bring home that podium. As Sean Scudder moves up into P4 in the class as he passes what is Elwyn Sykes is in the pits, and Mark Sykes also comes in, as I can see out of my window. But meanwhile, Lee Horn is into the pits again, so that moment has cost him some severe damage, and Lee Horn now dropping down the order like a stone. This race has gone from good to bad to disastrous, and as he comes on in to his pit box here, the Briton makes a very quick stop and then gets racing once again. And as he makes his way out this time, I think Lee Horn will be kicking himself for one mistake, costing him so dearly when all is said and done. As behind in there, Liam Tack soldiering on in the Martini machine as he makes his way up the mountain straight. And behind him, he does have Elwyn Sykes, who is going to come on through here. And Elwyn Sykes, having completed his final stop of the day, is the case currently P5 in the AM class, P14 overall, and looking to try and get back on to the AM podium when all is said and done. Half an hour of this race to go, plus the final lap. We are still waiting on a number of critical pit stops. And well, in the meantime, it's just a case of waiting to see if anybody drops it on the mountain Alternatively, if anybody does close up, as Darren Doherty is into the pit lane for his final stop of the day here. It doesn't have to be flashy, it doesn't have to be spectacular, he just needs to get this car into the pit box and get it serviced. I think the pit crew will know that. They won't do anything stylish, they'll just simply service the car and send him on his way to a victory, because right now his advantage over Stefan Wessels is absolutely huge. So huge, in fact, it's the best part of over a minute, and that shows you the advantage that Darren Doherty is playing with. Where's Wessels on the circuit? Well, he's only just making his way up towards what is the second corner here, so it shows you really Darren Doherty is effectively almost a lap ahead of the rest of his peers right now. And of course that has not just been for outright pace, but the majority of the AM class, in fact everybody in the AM class so far minus Darren Doherty, has been involved in some sort of mistake or incident at some point in this race. And well, it is Doherty who has just been flawless by comparison and not succumbed to the pressures of the mountain. And really we could argue that we could call him the master of the mountain in the AM class when all is said and done. Stefan Wessels right now makes his way through what is in towards McPhillamy, coming through turn 9 and up into turn number 10. We do see Nigel Stock, meanwhile, holding on to P5 right now, and he's got Matthew Prowting giving pursuit, but between the two of them, they have a lap down. That is Gareth Williams, who is in P13, the pro driver, who's had it all go wrong at the worst possible time as they make the way up the mountain straight and head up towards Griffiths Bend. Now, as they make the way up in the meantime, I can see some more pit stops are coming in. And it is William Foyle who stays out, but it is Paul Scott who comes into the pits on the race lead here. And this gives William Foyle the lead of the race, but is it enough? Or will we see another spin in the towel here as Paul Scott brings the car in? He has had enough, and he's actually scratched the front end of the car. You can see the damage on the front bumper there. We'll just try and get another camera angle on that. We can't quite get in. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. If you look on the left-hand side of the car from our perspective, and what is the front right from his perspective, you can see the scratch marks there. Some instant repair work being done, and now they're working on the car. And well, as they do that work now, it is the case that William Foyle, of course, will now be pushing to his utmost here to make sure that when he comes into the pits for his second and final stop, he does not lose out. Jamie Dory 7.5 seconds behind Foyle after they're battling between the two of them. And as they make the way on around, we can see that William Foyle just coming on through and looking very strong at this point as he makes his way through turns 6 and 7. I think this is his to take as he makes his way through towards McPhillamy. But meanwhile, Jamie Dory, of course, giving that pursuit, doing everything he can to try and stay with William Foyle as they make their way on around and over the mountain. And Paul Scott still in the pits, and now they have got the car up on the jacks. Now, as they make the way around, Paul Scott has finished his pit stop, and it is that stop where he's had to take the tyre change. As a result, he has now cleared his 2 stops, and we expect that Jamie Dory and William Foyle will likely be in within the next lap or so. Give it the next 1 to 3 laps, and we should see them come in. Meanwhile, whilst we look from Jamie Dory to P6 man Matthew Prowting here, who is continuing to try and close down Nigel Stock as they make the way out to the final corner and on to what for them is lap number 41. And well, Nigel Stock at this point, I think, grateful to have Gareth Williams behind him here as they make the way onto another lap, and Prowting will be looking to try and gain that advantage, try and find a way on past as they go charging up the mountain straight. Mersey coming up and go roaring all the way out towards turn number 2. It is the case that in our AM class things are really separated out, and really is in the pro class where we're seeing those last little battles at this point in time. And we'll just have to wait to see as William Foyle does come into the pit, and this is the critical pit stop. Of course, we do believe this is going to be a short stop, but this is the stop which he'll be relying on and counting on to confirm that he will be the leader of his class. As meanwhile, Jamie Dory also comes in from P2, making his way into the pits and getting the car stopped just in time. Now, where is Paul Scott? Well, Paul Scott right now is just coming over the mountain into the dip he comes. So as he makes his way on down, Paul Scott, of course, with that tyre change, pushing him through. But the Next Gen Racing driver here doing everything right as he comes on through the left-hand of Forrest's elbow. Behind him is Alistair Kirk, who has been closing a tremendous rate of knots, to be fair. Alistair Kirk, his last lap of 2:05.4. Meanwhile, Paul Scott, of course, having made that pit stop, has just come out ahead. But Alistair Kirk is flying here and looking to try and steal away that final position on the podium. But we do believe that Alistair Kirk has got another pit stop. And meanwhile, we can't wait for this to confirm as William Foyle exits the pit lane. He goes on to his final stint. William Foyle is your race leader overall and in the pro class. Now, he has made taking tyres at the first stop work. Now, he's got to nurse those tyres to the end, of course, but William Foyle, this is his to lose now as he makes his way back up to speed. And meanwhile, Jamie Dory behind, still in the pits, up on the jacks. They're changing the tyres. Paul Scott coming across that timing line. And Alistair Kirk into the pit, so he was given that pursuit, but he did have to come in, and we've had the confirmation that he's come in. Jamie Dory, they've just serviced him, and he's coming back out now. He'll be in P3, and Alistair Kirk making his way into the pits here. And can Alistair Kirk have a quick stop and then go charging after the rest of his opponents up the road? Where's Nigel Stock in all of this, I hear you ask? Well, Nigel Stock making his way across that timing line right now as he comes on across, and behind him he's got Matthew Prowting. He's found his way past Gareth Williams as they make the way on through. And Nigel Stock at this point, of course, looking to try and bring home P4 in the Pro class here. Send off that Ford GT with a bang as they make the way up the mountain straight. And we are hearing that Jamie Dory's had a moment. Oh, goodness me, where's Jamie Dory? He's in. Well, he's up on the apex there. He's lost the rear of the car on cold tyres, and everyone's coming on through here. And, well, it is going to be the case that Stock and Prowting are going to come on through. You can see them all making the way through, and just enough room for them to make through. Dory just holding the car there, and I think saying to himself, don't you dare lift your foot off the brake pedal, as he now brings himself back up to speed. But right now, Jamie Dory with that has essentially given us Alistair Kirk comes ahead as well. It means that right now, Nigel Stock in the Ford GT is in P3, and well, we've talked about time and time again, Nigel Stock trying to bring that Ford GT home on the podium. It's another opportunity, but he has only got 24 minutes to go, and I say only because he's got to hold off Matthew Prowting, who's all over the back of him for 24 minutes. Now as they make the way over and down into the dipper here, Matthew Prowting will be salivating at the prospect of a podium finish to wrap up his season as they make the way on through and they head all the way down towards Forest Elbow. And Nigel Stock has got to nail this perfectly, but we do know the one weakness of Nigel Stock in the Ford GT is of course those brake temperatures. Those front brakes just do not have the ability to work well when pushed hard. And as they make the way down Conrad, now you can see just how gradually Matthew Prowting is getting closer and closer and closer, but the Ford GT holds its own. But now as they make the way into the right-hand kink at turn number 20, you can see that Prowting's getting ever closer. And as they make the way through, Prowting's going to look up the outside. Meanwhile, it's going to be Stock defending to the inside. They come into the chase. Stock holds firm, then makes sure to take the full apex. And as a result, he holds Prowting at bay. But the battle in between the two of them will, of course, mean that Alistair Kirk will inch ever closer behind them. They've got Gareth Williams, who's a lap down and would love to be racing in this battle for the pro positions. Of course, he is a pro driver himself, but it has not worked out for Gareth Williams, and he could only watch, because if he was to get ahead of them, he'd have a face for the blue flags being waved, and they'd both be saying, will stop interfering with our race, as they make the way onto another lap. But Matthew Prowting right now giving it everything he has got in the tank to find his way past Nigel Stock, and Nigel Stock doing the same. You can see the rear view picture there in the distance. That's Alistair Kirk in P5. He is closing very rapidly on these guys. He's taken 1.3 seconds out of them on the previous lap, and now Prowting's going to look around the outside into Griffiths Bend, but I think this is just a dummy of a move. He looks at the cutback instead. A wide setup here, but Stock's going to have the inside all the way into the cutting, and as they make the way into the left-hander here, you can see Prowting trying to find every which way to get Nigel Stock to be unsettled, but he can't quite find it. As we ride on board here with the BMW M4 driver, he's doing everything he can to make Stock overwork the Ford GT, but Stock's holding firm for now as they make the way through 6, 7 and into the trio of 8 through to 10. Now as they come through turn 9 here, what can Prowting do? Well, over the mountain, nothing other than stay as close as he possibly can and get ready to go on the offensive out Forest Elbow. But you can see there, back it off through McPhillamy. He wants to close up under trail braking from Skyline into the dipper, because you can see, look at Nigel Stock with a lock up there on the front right brake. Nigel Stock really struggling to keep that car under control. He's doing everything in his power. To be fair, Nigel Stock making the beast in the United States work. But now as they come out for Forest, you can see parking on apex. They're trying to rob Matthew Prowting of any momentum as they go onto Conrad, and as they go charging down the straight, it is going to be the case that the BMW 1 unleash the beast within as they go charging down. It's V8 versus V6 as they go charging all the way down to the chase, and it's going to be Prowting who once again is forced to go to the inside to outside line as they make the way through the kink. He's going to be very close. He looks at this time. We stay on board here, and then as we look to the outside pictures, it is the case that Prowting is now alongside. He's been able to just get his nose in, and with a very brave move, Matthew Prowting takes the position. But will it all be said and done as Stock looks on the inside there into Murray's corner, and in the end he has to back out Nigel Stock. He just does not have the brakes to outcommit. I can imagine if he tried to go any later there, he would have been understeering straight across the circuit. The Ford GT just does not have the durability. It has the driver, it has the potential of the driver, but the car is just not giving Nigel Stock what he wants, and he has lost P3. But can he come back? That is the question. But you can see in the rear there, Alistair Kirk getting closer and closer, and I think in what is Nigel Stock's mirror, the words think objects may appear larger than they seem or closer than they seem. No, it is the case that Alistair Kirk is getting a lot closer lap on lap as he makes his way on through, and with that brilliant overtake from Matthew Prowting now, Nigel Stock will be hoping that it is the case that he can try and get back ahead before Alistair Kirk arrives on the scene, because right now Kirk is absolutely gunning it, and we can understand why he wants that podium just as much as the two drivers ahead of him as he makes his way through the corners. Now, meanwhile, we look from them to our race leader, William Foyle here, who 27 seconds clear of Paul Scott right now after, of course, taking the tyres early on. He can nurse this one to the finish. I should tell you that Paul Scott is lapping approximately a second a lap faster than William Foyle. William Foyle, I think, has dialed the wick down considerably with 20 minutes to go, but do keep in mind that he does not have to push hard, does William Foyle here. With 20 minutes to go, that's 10 laps. He can afford to lose a second a lap and still finish very clear of his peers. Paul Scott in P2, meanwhile, giving it everything he's got here, but I think it's going to be a little bit too late in the day unless he can find a way to close up 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds a lap. Meanwhile, Nigel Stock, well, he just made his way past Gareth Williams, who's moved out the way for the 3 pro drivers. I think Nigel Stock here, if he is going to go for it, he's a bit too far back, or it's going to be the mother of all lunges down into the chase. But even so, I don't think Stock's going to have it within the car as he makes his way on through and into the chicane. The Englishman bringing it back together here, and he's going to try and give that pursuit as much as possible. But right now, Alistair Kirk, I mean, you can see there the flasher lights from Gareth Williams trying to say, I think, trying to get the message through, look, I'm not going to be interfering with this, keep running. But as they make the way on through, Alistair Kirk now, you can see he's just getting so much larger in the camera shot when he doesn't fade in and out there, but that's the limitations of the tech we do have. It is the case that Alistair Kirk is constantly in that pursuit and doing everything to bring down that podium and bring it to him as he makes his way through. There's Jamie Dory as well in the rearview picture, and Jamie Dory lapping only 0.4 of a second slower than Alistair Kirk at this point in time, but lapping significantly faster than the drivers ahead of them, and as a result, Jamie Dory may also be a factor in this come the end. We will have to wait and see, as meanwhile Lee Horn finds his way past Darren Doherty here. Darren Doherty deciding not to essentially battle with this for the simple reason he doesn't have to. The AM class leader just wanted to bring the car on home, as we do see a message in the YouTube chat there from Paul Scott to say that he lost about 15 seconds to William Foyle with a scrape against the wall, avoiding a back marker on his in lap. So that explains why that gap was perhaps opened up a lot more than we expected, but Paul Scott soldiering on, and indeed it is the case that 15 seconds would mean that he would be potentially able to hunt down William Foyle coming in, although to be fair, William Foyle has just set a 205.7 to Paul Scott's 206.2. William Foyle is putting the hammer down once again, and my goodness, the man just is an unstoppable force. But meanwhile, Alistair Kirk, well, I think he's just found, well, I think Alistair Kirk's made a mistake, because it looks as though right now as he comes down, he's got Jamie Dory over the back of him. And I haven't got anything in my notes. Alistair Kirk's got it wrong into the wall, and something has gone very, very wrong with Alistair Kirk's Lamborghini. And, well, I think it's the case. He's been involved in a collision, and, well, it does look as though, well, Gareth Mills is right behind him. I'm wondering if those two have come together, and I can see that Alistair Kirk, as you're saying in the YouTube chat, but there's been a collision between the two of them, and as a result, that is what has spelled the problems here. And Alistair Kirk, who was looking so strong, well, now it has all gone wrong. You can see there Lee Horn just soldiered on through here. Alistair Kirk's just got nothing in the car to be able to fight or go racing. He will have to come into the pits and do repair work, and that is an absolute shame for TGC. And it would seem as though if you're in Racing Team Astra or Team TGC, it is not your day at Bathurst, because this circuit takes no prisoners on the best of days, but it seems though it's relentless at hounding TGC Racing and Racing Team Astra, and that is a disaster for them as he makes his way on into the pits right now. And that opens up to Jamie Dory now. Can he close down Stock and also Matthew Prowting and bring them down? We'll have to wait and find out. Now the question, of course, will be if Alistair Kirk can get that repair work done quickly. If he's got a fast repair still remaining, could he potentially hunt everybody down? I mean, if he's going to hunt everyone down, it is going to have to be qualifying laps to the finish, but we know Alistair Kirk's got that in him. He's been lapping so fast, lapping at the pace of William Foyle, if not faster than our race leader, so we'll have to wait and see. But well, if he's going to do it, he's got a long way to go, because look at the first trial he's got to go through. It's Paul Williams first and foremost. He has to find a way past the Team Tetra Rouge driver as he makes his way up into turn number 2 here, and I think he's not going to be able to do it before the cutting. Alistair Kirk, to be fair now, just going all in terms of that pit time. It was just repair work and perhaps a little bit of a top up with fuel just to make sure he can go all in, qualifying laps all the way to the end. And we do know that with Alistair Kirk, when he sets his sights on something, he will go for it. And the first thing he's got is the sights of the Team Tetra Rouge Ferrari of Paul Williams as we ride on board here with Alistair Kirk as he makes his way over the mountain here. And I think he might even consider looking for a move over the mountain if he's considered it, but he's going to have to be careful as they make the way into but Philomene. Now, as they make the way for the left hand, you can see Paul Williams going a little bit deep there, just a little bit of understeer. And as they make the way with Skyline, Alistair Kirk backing out there, knowing there's no way through, otherwise he would be forcing a move, which would be extremely dangerous. But Paul Williams definitely feeling the pressure, the hot air down his neck as they make the way through it, sliding there through the dipper. And I think Paul Williams at this point feeling that situation as they make the way through the left-hander here of Forest Elbow. And as they exit out, Alistair Kirk will be going on the offensive. And as they go charging down the straight here, Alistair Kirk's going to have his best proper shot at Paul Williams, the first proper attempt at an overtake. You see Williams putting the car right in the middle of the road here. He's allowed to do that. He can make this overtake absolutely horrible if he so desires. And as they make the way down, well, Paul Williams is going to pull to what is the outside of the kink into the inside of the chase. But as they make the way down, it's Alistair Kirk who's already ahead. And that is one picked off already. He's now going after Jamie Dory, who, hold up a second, Jamie Dory's into the pits with damage to the car. What's happened to Jamie Dory? Well, that must be a mistake out circuit somewhere, because that Audi was not like that the last time we looked at it. It doesn't come packaged with all that damage. It's a fast repair, to be fair. Jamie Dory's got fast repairs to spare, but now where's Alistair Kirk? Well, he's just making his way across the timing line, so Alistair Kirk will take motivation from that. That's one driver who's been brought a lot closer. You can see just at the top of your picture, and as they make the way up the straight now, I think it is the case that Alistair Kirk will be going on the offensive and be gaining even more momentum, and he's only 6.5 seconds off of Jamie Dory, who in turn is 20 seconds off of Lee Horn. We'll wait and see. We've still got 13 minutes to go here, and the next lap will be the indicator, because we'll see what pace Alistair Kirk is running at. Meanwhile, looking a bit further up the road, I can tell you that Matthew Prowting has made his way clear of Nigel Stock to 5 seconds almost, with Gareth Williams between the two of them just tucked in behind Prowting. As they make the way on around, it is the case the Pro Class seems to be where all the action is building or lies at the moment, with the fact that in the AM Class, and we should just make a reference to the AM Class, let's not forget about them, they share the track with the pros. Darren Doherty is just bringing his car home right now to the end. He's got 13 minutes remaining plus the final lap, and the AM Class leader right now is really just running this very nicely and casually to the end. He has got an advantage over second place man Stefan Wessels in what is the region of somewhere around, if I do my estimate correctly, based on the time squeeze, around 42 seconds is his advantage, so he can switch the car off. And in fact, his last lap of 208.6 to Stefan Wessels is 205.7. He can lose 3 seconds, he can lose 4 seconds lap. It's not going to cost him the win by any means as he makes his way on through, just taking his foot off the gas. Meanwhile, Wessels continuing that pursuit, P2 in class right now, and doing everything he can to continue to hunt down that leading case. Darren Doherty drops it, has to make a last minute pit stop as he makes his way out of Forest Elbow. Mark Baker in P3, meanwhile, 46 seconds down on Stefan Wessels, but 10 seconds ahead of Sean Scudder as they make the way on through it. And Mark Baker, the Team Tetra Rouge driver here, giving it all his all as well to finish on the podium, with Scudder in P4 as he makes his way through the cutting once again. As he comes up and through this time, a little bit of bounce in the Ferrari there, the suspension just bouncing on the road surface angling of what is the exit of the cutting as he makes his way on through. Paul Williams setting his personal best, which is a 205.9, but I do have to jump a little bit further up the road, ladies and gentlemen, because Alistair Kirk right now, a 204.8. This man is flying like an absolute monster. And well, at this point, to give you an idea, if we do predictions, so Jamie Dory, of course, that last lap was an out lap from the pits, so we can't use that as a metric. We can, however, look at times from, say, Lee Horn, for example. Lee Horn on that last lap, by comparison, it was a 2:05.6, so it's the case that Alistair Kirk approximately 6 to 8 tenths of a second faster. And meanwhile, Nigel Stock at 2:06.4 is the case Alistair Kirk 1.8 seconds faster. Matthew Prowting at 2:05.1, so it's the case Alistair Kirk 3 tenths faster. With the time remaining, I think Alistair Kirk at this point will be looking to take on Jamie Dory, but I think Lee Horn may be a bit too far away given the time remaining, but we'll wait to see. But he is throwing everything at this to try and bring home what would be a top 6, if not a top 5 in the pro class when all is said and done. But we will wait and see. As meanwhile, looking a bit further down the field in P14 right now, overall P5 in the M class, we do have Elwyn Sykes, the racing team Astra driver, who haven't had to make multiple visits to the pits with damage to the car, now just trying to bring things home to the finish. And his teammate of Davide Favo just behind, well, when I say just behind, 47 seconds behind to be fair, but 1 place behind. And it is the case racing team Astra here trying to bring home those valuable points that will see them take the team championship win. And I believe, based on doing some quick math at the moment, they should just about seal the team championship, unless I'm very much mistaken, as we see Favo making his way on through, but that will be confirmed by the administrators of the series later this week, if not next week, when they do the final points tallies and also involve and account for any instance in both of the lobbies. But we'll wait and find out. But as we see Davide Favo pushing through here and making his way over the crest and down into left-hander here. His boys McPhillamy. He's got Gareth Williams who moves out of the way, a lap down, and now with 10 minutes to go, everybody of course just bringing things together. Tiredness kicking in, and it is the case that the cars now will be feeling the wear, and I think for a number of drivers, particularly with their brake pads, they will be just trying to massage the brakes to the finish. But right now, well, it has to be said that William Foyle, leading by 34 seconds, continuing to open that lead to Paul Scott. Lap after lap, he's just in a world of his own, the Crest Autosport driver here. And I know we sing his praises quite a lot, but at the end of the day, for over the course of this race, just to continue at that pace, at 2:05.3 that last lap, it's almost as if he's tried to send a message to everyone around him, apart from Alistair Kirk, who dares to lap as fast as me. Well, I think Alistair Kirk would say I dare, because he's set at 2:04.5 on that last lap, and that is almost matching the fastest lap of this race, which is jointly held by William Foyle and Alistair Kirk at the moment, as they make their way on through, both of the 2:04.41s as they make their way on the round. I'm hearing that Gareth Mills has jumped to the pit lane, and Davide Favo has come into the pits once again. And one driver, to be fair, through all this, whilst he's not right up the front and we're not really singing his praises as such in terms of his performance, it's Stuart Taylor right now who, despite everything, despite the fact he's had to make 4 visits to the pits so far, it is the case that the TGC racing driver has soldiered on all the way. And to give credit to him, he is continuing to bring that Ferrari round the circuit, and he's going to be bringing it home. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if you win or lose, everybody's a winner when you can bring the car home and meet the checkered flag. You deserve a pat on the back for that, and that is the mantra that we try to encourage in Next Gen Racing in our series. As meanwhile, a little bit of a shock surprise here, Mark Baker into the pits, and that promotes Sean Scudder into P3 in the AM class, and Mark Baker comes out in P13 overall, and he is of course tucked in behind there what is Davide Favo, who's a lap down, and that's Lee Horn behind him, who is a lap up on Mark Baker. So Mark Baker will have to let the Porsche Pro driver come on through very shortly as they make the way up into Griffin's Bend, but I think he's going to do it here under a lift-off, under braking into turn 2, and he does indeed. And as they make the way on through the right-hander right now, Mark Baker with that last-minute pit stop, I think that must have been for fuel. Because I'm not getting anything on my timing screens to say he's had an incident with the wall or a major moment, unless he's had a brush with the wall somewhere else of the circuit. That's damaged the steering rack, and he's decided to come in for a fast repair. But that pit time, 43.3 seconds, overall would be a sign that he's had to probably put a little bit of fuel in the car and perhaps just under-fueled, and that has cost him what would be a podium as a result. And that means that Sean Scudder, well, with a missing bonnet on that Ferrari, I think that Ferrari has been in the wars and then some. Well, he's going to try and bring it home all the same here, and will Mark Baker right now 20 seconds back from him, well 21 seconds back from it. I think Sean Scudder can bring it to the end, and well, it hasn't been the day for Racing Team Astra, nor has it been for their 4th driver, Scudder, but at the same time he is going to bring things home if he continues at this pace and he doesn't have to make a surprise visit to the pits. But we will wait to see as he rolls it on down as he comes into turn 21. as he makes his way on through at this time with now what is only 6 minutes remaining. And thank you to all those of you who have tuned in since the start, and we're glad to have you here with us, of course. And well, do let me know in the chat what has been your moment of this race in terms of all the action we have had in the season finale for the Coach Dave Academy Next Level Racing lobby. It has gone a little bit quiet towards the end. Most of the battles are now resolved. The only battle we may have coming is Alistair Kirk, who we're looking at here, versus Jamie Dory. He's lapping approximately 0.8 of a second a lap faster than Jamie Dory. At the moment, the gap between the two of them is 3.4 seconds, and with 3 laps to go for these two, it could be an opportunity for them to come together once more. We'll wait and see. In fact, it's 4 laps to go because they are not quite a lap down on our lead, although William Foyle making his way out for his elbow right now, so he is getting a bit closer. But I think it is the case that right now these guys, they may come together right at the end. That lap for Jamie Dory at 2:05.2, Alistair Kirk at 2:04.3, and that is the fastest lap of the race, ladies and gentlemen. Alistair Kirk has set the fastest lap of the race, a 2:04.36, an absolute monster of a lap here, and he is hunting down Jamie Dory as he presses on up the mountain straight once again here. He can see that there is that P6 at offer. He wants it, but what about Dory? Well, Dory will be giving it everything he can right now to hold on to that position. And my apologies, no, that's not the fastest lap of the race. The fastest lap is held by Gareth Williams, in fact, at 2:04.2, which was set much earlier on. So Alistair Kirk not quite taking the fastest lap so far. He's got a couple more laps to do so. Perhaps he's building up to it, but Gareth Williams has put in a better lap over the course of the race distance. But Alistair Kirk really on that qualifying pace right now and giving it everything he can. But as they make their way around, it is a situation where Jamie Dory at this point, I think now, just focusing on bringing that car home to the finish. But this is the horrible part. Now, if you're in Dory's shoes, I've been here myself, when you're on those last couple of laps and you know you've got the lead position, but you've got Alistair Kirk, for example, closing up on you. He's closed up at you at roughly 0.8 to a whole second a lap. It's a horrible feeling because you're so tired, and at this point you just want to bring the car home. But you've got this one driver who is right there in your rearview mirror. You can see him now as you come out for his elbow, and he's getting closer. And you don't want to push the car any further, but you have to keep pushing. And that for Jamie Dory is the pain he is now feeling, in the fact that he has got to keep that pace up. He cannot take his foot off the gas at any moment. And this is where those small mistakes can suddenly creep in. Because with tired legs, tired arms, and a car that's been through the wars, he's got to bring it all the way home. But Alistair Kirk, meanwhile, to be fair, he must have the ultimate adrenaline rush in that car. I don't know what they put in the fuel tank or whether they gave him a Snickers or something, but it is the case. He is absolutely flying and salivating at that prospect of P6, and well, he's going for something. It's not gold in terms of being the win in this race, but he's going for gold in the idea of it him being the opportunity. But Jamie Dory has responded. He's just set a 2:04.8, which is his fastest lap of the race so far, and as he makes his way onto the mountain straight once again, Dory is reacting. He knows that Alistair Kirk is breathing down his neck. He does not want Kirk getting too close as they make their way on up towards turn number 2. Meanwhile, a bit further back, we can see Paul Williams here, P9, P8 in the class, as he makes his way on up, P8 in the pro class that is, and right now I think looking to bring the car home in what has been a rather eventful race for Paul Williams. To be fair, that speeding penalty in the pits in his second stop has not helped him out in the end, and if we take away that 30 seconds from his race time, he would arguably right now be the driver in P6 in the pro class. So it's a case that one mistake has cost him very dearly, but I think he'll build on that for his future campaign to come if he does come back to join us for season 3, which we do hope to do, that all of our drivers do so, including Paul Williams. But it is a campaign where I think he's going to sign off on a relative high. He's had a great battle once again with Nigel Stock as he makes his way on through, and as they come charging on around right now, we do look of course to Mark Baker here, the AM Team Tetra Rouge driver, who, well, it has not gone his way and is hunting down Sean Scooter, but Sean is the best part of what is 7 seconds up the road. Baker is closing, to be fair, he is closing at quite a rapid rate, but I do not think he's got enough time in the day to be able to get this done. Now, our race leader, William Foyle, is on the penultimate lap. He's on lap 53. We will be seeing a 54th lap before it is time said and done. And as they make the way all the way around right now, it is the case that I think everybody trying to come to that conclusion in terms of the field so spread out. I think they're all just wanting that timer to come down at this point, which is completely understandable, and none more so than Jamie Dory, who's probably hoping that they can suddenly accelerate time But unfortunately, we go 1 second at a second at a time, and we can see that Jamie Dory here, well, he's got Alistair Kirk. He is constantly closing him down every corner, every lap. But this lap, Jamie Dory setting what is, as he comes across that timeline, a 205.2. Alistair Kirk, a 204.286. It's almost the fastest lap. 600ths of the fastest lap, and Alistair Kirk is pushing. They will have 2 more laps, because remember, the race leader right now is going down Conrad, and he will be closing up very shortly. But meanwhile, as we look from then to Sean Scudder making his way in towards what is the cutting here, and well, Sean Scudder in a very heavily mangled Ferrari here, and well, it has not gone very well for Sean Scudder. He's got Lee Horn closed up behind him. We've got 2 more laps of the Kirk versus Dory battle to end. But well, Sean Scudder at this point, I think he's broken most of the front end of that car as he makes his way on through it, and Lee Horn at this point just tucking in behind and trying to find a way on through. Of course, Lee Horn being a lap up on Scudder, and it will be the case the South African driver will have to give way very shortly as they make the way on down through the dipper. And as they do at this point, I do wonder, in fact, with the rate at which Mark Baker is closing, I'm wondering if there's a... In fact, does that look as though the left-hand wheel is coming out of the steering rack there? It looks as though, in fact, that... My goodness, my apologies, ladies and gents. I've been a bit picky ignorant with regards to the state of Scudder's car. That front left tyre, the right side as we look at it right now, is not properly affixed to the car with the damage it's picked up. And that's why Mark Baker is closing at a rapid rate. So as a result, we may be seeing Mark Baker take the fight come the final lap. And where is Mark Baker? There he is as they make the way on down. But it is the case that Scudder is fighting against the damaged steering rack as they make the way on through. And they head on to what will be their final lap shortly, I do believe, as they come on around. But meanwhile, it is William Foyle who's on his final lap right now and making his way over the mountain. And as he comes on through, well, the question is, where is Alistair Kirk versus Jamie Dory? Well, as they make the way through the chase here, and they'll be coming around to go on to their final lap shortly. The gap between the two of them is 7/10 of a second. It is going to be a final lap showdown between the two of them, and it is Alistair Kirk who has the advantage as they make the way out of the final corner. And you can see Jamie Dory immediately pulling over to the left hand side as the white flag waves, and Alistair Kirk takes the fastest lap of the race in the penultimate lap, a 204.145. It's on as they make the way on through Hell's Corner for the final time, and Alistair Kirk there with the nose twitch, and that's how hard he is pushing that machine. But meanwhile, we do have to look from them to our race leader, who is coming to the end of his race right now as he comes down through the chase. It has not been the case that he's led this one from start to finish, but it has been the case that when he has taken the lead, he has not given it up. He decided to take the tyres early to get the jump on everyone, and it has worked successfully, because as he comes through the final corner, it will be William Foyle who takes the win at Bathurst in Lobby 2, crossing the line there, 37 seconds clear of the rest of the field in a spectacular drive for the pro driver and a fantastic finish to his season. And as he makes his way across, it will be the case that we do look further afield, and well, Mark Baker right now all over the back of what is Sean Scudder as they make their way down and over the mountain. And meanwhile, as they come on through, I think Sean Scudder's got it a bit wrong, and Mark Baker as well. But what about Alistair Kirk, I hear you ask? Well, he's just a bit further back from this, so we've got these two battles coming together. But meanwhile, where's Darren Dottie? He's coming down the mountain as well, so I feel quite spaced out. As meanwhile, we do see what is there, Paul Scott coming across the line, P2 when all is said and done in the pro class. Well done to Paul Scott for P2 as he comes on through. And as he makes his way around, it is going to be Matthew Prowting who rounds off the pro podium here as he comes down into the final corner. The Eclipse Racing driver has nailed this one, and it's been a superb end to his season to pick up a podium here at Bathurst as he crosses the line in a very well-deserved P3. And then behind them, it's going to be Nigel Stock. It wasn't the podium, but it was a P4, a hard full P4. He brings it home when all is said and done. And as he come right across the line, we can see Lee Horn just behind P5. And then Darren Doherty, ladies and gentlemen, as he comes to the final corner. It has been a flawless race from the Ferrari driver, and he crosses the line. Your M-Class winner at Bathurst in the Super Endurance round, the season finale. A superb drive. And behind it is Alistair Kirk, who takes the P7 in the end in the Pro Class. Oh, sorry, the P6 in the Pro Class ahead of Jamie Dory, who comes home P7 in the Pro Class, P8 overall. And then it is Paul Williams who comes home P9 in the end, all said and done as he crosses the line. A superb drive from Paul Williams, and Stefan Vessels will be the last driver to finish on the lead lap here as he comes out of the final corner. Second place as he makes his way across that timeline. It was P3 in the end in the AM class to Sean Scooter as he made his way across the line a lap down, and then it was Mark Baker and Elwyn Sykes to complete the top 5 in the AM class. But let's take a quick look back at how Alistair Kirk passed Jamie Dorey in the end. So this was coming on down into what was the dipper here, and as they made their way through, oh goodness me, now I'm not sure if there was contact between the two drivers, but Jamie Dorey got it very, very wrong and went sideways. We'll try and take another look back at that if we can. Riding on board here, well, Jamie Dorey's going to lose it, and there was a bit of contact by Alistair Kirk. There was so much momentum, he couldn't stop the car, and he's carried on, which is understandable because they won't want it to cause a blockage on the mountain. I think the stewards might take a little look at that one afterwards. That's going to be a very difficult one for them to dissect, and you can see Jamie Dorey there immediately getting back up to speed afterwards. But that's how they finish, with Alistair Kirk ahead of Jamie Dorey. The stewards will probably take a look at that one after the race, but that will be our race classification for the time being. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think it is time for us to get ready for our post-race interviews for our race winners and our championship winners. Do not go anywhere. It's been a fantastic season finale, and we've got some superb post-race interviews to bring you very shortly in 3 to 5 minutes. Coming up very soon. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, well, we are back and ready for our post-race interviews, starting off with our winners of the race. And we'll be kicking off with our AM-class winner, and that is Darren Dotty. Let's bring the Irishman in and hear his thoughts on what was looking to be quite a comfortable race through and through. Hello, Darren, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Darren, a superb drive from start to finish to bring home the win at Bathurst in the AM class. How does it feel to have won the second of our super endurance races in this season?
Well, Paul, to be honest, it was a bit of a surprise coming into this race. Bathurst with it's a challenge track for everybody. I think at the start of the race, it was all about trying to not hit the wall and keep clean. And I think I was evident with Mark and Stephen behind me, who dropped off really early at the start of the race just to sit back. I think it was just, I knew I had to stay ahead of Gareth and David to finish P3. So that was my thinking at the very start of the race, was stay ahead of Gareth and David.
Oh, indeed. And we saw at the start of the race, as you were saying, that focus on managing the race and making sure you stayed ahead of both Davide and also Gareth Mills. But then as the race went on, it seemed as though everybody around you was making these small and major errors, but you just seemed to be absolutely flawless. What was the focus on your race? Was it just sort of run at a particular pace, run at, say, 90% for as long as possible? Just take us through how you managed to keep it so clean compared to the rest of your peers.
Exactly when I started the race, I would say stay behind obviously Gareth and David, and I was driving Gareth Mills. To be fair to him, he started picking up. I knew with the championship points, I had to stay within 6 places of probably both of them and just cruise round. Don't need to push it. And I think something happened to Gareth earlier on. He spun, and then David Viavo had a spin as well. And I found myself sitting in a P3 ahead of the both of them. So at that stage, I was just cruising. I didn't need to push. I just need to stay ahead of them. And then Mark Baker was flying, Stefan as well, and something happened ahead of me. I just think it was just pure luck. After the second pit stop, I come out and I realized, what am I doing here? Why am I in first as somebody else? As anybody else to take pit stops? How did they end up here? And then at that stage, it was just trying to manage the gap. Mark Baker was catching me for a period, and then I think at some stage he dropped off. I could see the relative, he dropped off, so I knew he must have had an accident or another pit stop. So at that stage, I was just trying to. I wasn't pushing. My lap times were probably 2-3 seconds a lap off until the last couple of laps. I seen Jamie Dory and Alistair were fighting, so they were getting closer and closer and closer. And I goes, oh no. So I knew I had to start pushing because I did not want to meet them in their battle up through the mountain. So I was a bit nervous towards the end, but thankfully it ended the way it did.
Oh, indeed. And well, as you say there, the surprise when you came out of the pits to be leading after the 2 stops by such a margin as well. And it just seemed as though with particularly Mark Baker dropping it and the racing team Astra drivers Sean Scudder and also Stefan Vessels dropping it as well. And then having to pick up the pace at the very end with the insurgents of Jamie Dory and Alistair Kirk battling. Just take us through what was going through your mind on that last lap in particular, knowing that you'd secured P3 in the championship and it was just a cruise to the finish. I mean, you were lapping, as you say yourself, 2 to 3 seconds a lap slower, just nursing the car on home. But what was that feeling going through your mind as you brought it around for the final lap?
Yeah, I said, coming down to the final lap, I was watching relative. I could see that Jamie was catching me. He was nearly as close as 1.2 seconds at one stage. And then I heard him on the radios. He obviously must have bended or something happened between the two of them. And they dropped off to 3 seconds. And that was a massive relief. I lifted off the gas because coming up the mountain and going down the S's, like we already know through that race, if you take, 1-2 second lapse of concentration, you're in the wall and it could ruin your race. So that had happened throughout the whole race. I think I was maybe the only person that I didn't have to go in and do a repair. So I was very, very lucky. And at that stage, coming around the last lap, I honestly couldn't believe it. Coming down out of the mountain, I could see that Jimmy had dropped off. At that stage, I was able to lift and enjoy it. And at that stage, it was just, please don't hit the grass, don't do something stupid. Just get over the line. Just get over the line.
Oh, indeed, and it was fantastic when you did cross the line and in the end take home the win and that P3 in the championship. And really reflecting on your championship as a whole, what has been your highlight or set of highlights for the season?
Listen, I think, obviously this has been a brilliant season, and I'm actually very, very grateful that I was in the, Coach Dave Academy lobby. Stefan, Mark, Gareth, Sean, Gareth Mills, all the drivers that's been in that class is so respectful. I don't think I've ever put an instant report into the whole time I was in the season, and it's been so much clean racing. I think I've been fortunate. Sean, in fairness to him, if he had been there the whole season, maybe he was up there as well. But um, I think the drivers have put, the drivers in front of me, Mark and Stefan, them guys are, so quick and so rapid, and you have to be switched on the race with them guys. And I was there, shout out to Liam, Liam Takali. He was at the back of the grid. Now he's sort of sitting in the mid grid. I was there last season in the exact same with the NXTGEN. And it's glad to see that he's coming up. And I was there last season, so it's good to see this season does progress player, drivers. And the only reason that happens is because the people around them. This league has pushed people on and the drivers. And again, I look forward to season 3 with the same drivers, hopefully.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant to hear, and I can see your point with everybody progressing and really the pace of the whole group coming forward and everybody improving as they go. And yourself, of course, I'm sure there's plenty that you've taken from racing, race out, and applied to the future races. Is there anything in particular that you've learnt more about over the course of the season?
Yeah, I think it's not about quick laps. It's about consistent laps. I think at the start it was, I've watched the quick laps. I've been in qualifying. I've been in practice, and the guys ahead of me are immense, and they're putting in quick laps. In fairness, I watch their lap times. I'm watching their onboards, their cockpits, and I'm trying to learn from them. Because I mightn't be quick, but I think over the season I've proved that I've been consistent. And trying to not bin it or not make mistakes. But next season, I think I need to push that extra bit, and not fear, and more fight. And as I said, respect to Stefan. Stefan said to me, "Look, I think you show too much respect to people, and you lift off when you shouldn't be." But I know where my place is, and hopefully next season I'll get that extra half tenth or 2 tenths to push on.
Oh, indeed. Well, we look forward to seeing how you get on in season 3. And just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to say thank you to or give a shout out to?
Yeah, there's 2 guys. There's Andrew Walker and Simon Patterson. 2 guys leading into this race tonight. They said to me, it's not how quick you can do a lap, it's how quick you can finish a race. So it's the best advice they ever give me, because it wasn't how quick I was around the track. It was about get how quick I get to the end of the race. And thankfully, sitting back and pacing myself ended up with giving me the P1, and I'm grateful for that.
Oh, indeed. Well, I'm sure they're very grateful for the shout out on the broadcast. But with that, Darren, thank you for joining us in the interview room, and congratulations not just on a superb drive to victory in the AM Class night, but also on capitalising and seizing 3rd place in the AM Championship.
Yeah, thanks very much, Paul, and all the NXTGEN admin and the NXTGEN League. Thanks very much, and brilliant broadcast, Paul, and well done to Stefan and Mark Baker as well.
Indeed. Well, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you back in season 3.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Enjoy your evening.
All the best. So hearing there from Darren Doherty, very happy with regards to his overall performance. And what I really liked, and I think we can all take away from there, is with regards to his comment about how the whole field, the AM class, has really come on over the course of the season. And he mentioned drivers such as Liam Tack, for example, Gareth Mills, also referring to Davide Favo and other drivers there. Everybody's really come along, and the intensity of the battling, but also great respect shown between each and every driver throughout. And the fact that he hasn't had to put in too many instant reports or any instant reports as far as he recalls. And at the same time, that mutual respect between drivers, and that's what we'd love to foster here at NXTGEN Racing. And indeed, if Darren's come away with that and wanting to come back with season 3 and having delivered tonight in a very consistent race and taking that advice from his friends who he gave the shout outs to, Andrew and Sean, with regards to just keep it consistent, I definitely think Darren Doherty is going to be a force to be reckoned with when we go into season 3. He's definitely looking very strong. But with that, we now come on to our Pro Class winner, and that is William Foyle. Let's get him in here. And just give us a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen. We're just bringing him into the interview room. Hello, William. Can you hear me?
Yep.
William, a superb drive from start to finish, and in the end, it was the checkered flag that went to you, the overall win and the Pro Class win in the Super Endurance race at Bathurst. How does it feel to be on the top step of the podium?
Yeah, it feels really good. Once again, I sort of did not expect it, going with how the Audi felt for me personally around this track, and to win it by such an advantage was something I didn't expect either.
Now, if you don't mind me asking, just picking up on that point there, when you're saying about how the Audi felt, would you mind elaborating? Like, she just looks so smooth in the Audi.
Yeah, well, up there at the top of the mountain, I found turn 9 and 10. If you did the position in the car slightly wrong, it would slide and just spit you out either into the wall or into the gravel, and you'd be dead. So it was a case of just trying to nurse it all the time rather than push.
Oh, indeed, well, it did seem with each and every lap you nursed it, but to be fair, if we dissect your race up into component parts, a relatively good start, staying out of trouble on the open lap before the safety car came out. I do have to ask, did the safety car change up your potential strategy? Did it encourage you potentially to take those tyres at the end of your first pit stop? Just take us through sort of the open laps and what your strategy was.
Yeah, personally for me, because of how early it was into the stint as a lap one, it didn't really change my strategy because I think pitting for tyres before it got too hot is probably the best option because you're able to push on say, temps that are high. So you've got fresher tyres and full fuel, so it's like restarting the race theoretically from the pit stop. So that's what I was going for. That was my strategy, to basically, after the first lot of fuel, was to take fresh tyres. So yeah, it was a shock to me when Jamie and a few others decided to basically max out on fuel and stay on the same set of tyres.
Well, indeed, and then we saw when you decided to take that tyre change in the first pit stop, the pace that you were delivering time and time again, and just in managing the tyres, because tyre wear has been such a critical thing all season in terms of when the tyres fall off, and we saw particularly at Bathurst and also back in Le Mans in round number 6 just how the tyres can fade away. Were there any concerns from your perspective with regards to how the tyres would feel in the remaining, say, 30 minutes of the race, because you'd be pushing them later into the end?
Well, unlike obviously the normal sessions, it was 2 hours, so I was able to come in the pits and actually see my tyre wear, and it only said I'd done 10% after the first pit stop. So I was like, well, they're going to be absolutely fine doing a whole stint and then half a stint at the end. So I was just thinking I can just look after the tyres best I can. If they start to fall off, I could just look after them. It's more of a temperature wear with it, like tyre deg, temperature deg, more than it is actually tyre degradation on a track like this. So that was why some laps I would sort of back off a little bit, just take it a bit easy and then push again. So it was just a case of managing the car basically as best as I could.
Oh, indeed, and we saw that car management, particularly towards the end, where we saw some absolutely astonishing laps from yourself, pretty much qualifying pace laps, and then, as you say, just cooling it down before going on the offensive again, particularly around that second pit stop. And when you came out of the pits after the second stop with such an advantage and run it to the end, was the fault then just bring it down a level, bring it down, calm it down to the finish? Because we saw that Paul Scott ended up approximately 30 plus seconds behind you due to a scrape with the wall that cost him 15 seconds. Did you switch off at that point, or was it just the case of bring it home?
Yeah, it was. I didn't say much switch off, but I did think I do not have to do anything to push. I can just basically do the lap times necessary to keep the gap the same, and it naturally opened up just because I seem to have quite good pace. So yeah, it was a very good sort of management of the car, which got me where I did doing that.
Oh, indeed, and that car management working out very well to bring home that win. And I do have to ask, what was the feeling as you went around on that final lap to the checkered flag, knowing that you're going to secure the win?
It was a feeling of, I can't believe I've won this. It was a great feeling, but also, how did I not crash? Because I must have crashed over 200 times in practice. If my car was real, I think my crew chief would have come running after me to kill me if I'd crashed that much in practice. So to come home and basically get no incidents in the car as well was really good.
Oh, indeed. And I can see in the YouTube chat right now a number of individuals really praising you for what was a solid drive, including Stuart Taylor, Darren Doherty, and Zariah Gurunan. And I do have to say that really, I think in terms of the performances, having joined the season midway through, you've captured the hearts of a lot of spectators. And reflecting on it, that result has meant that you have secured P3 in the Pro Class Championship when all is said and done. How does it feel to have come home third, given your limited time in the series?
Yeah, it feels fantastic to be able to say I've got in the podium steps in this season. Simply the fact I missed 5 rounds. So to be able to do that is such an achievement. My goal starting off this series being so late was, can I catch Paul? Can I catch him? Paul Scott, that is. So to be able to end up on the podium is just such a bonus.
Well, that's absolutely brilliant to hear. And in terms of looking back over the championship, not just your achievement, do you have a particular standout moment or a set of highlights that you'll be reflecting on?
I think my standout moment for me was winning Le Mans, because it's a track I'd actually never raced at before. So to be able to say I've won there in the league is such a great feeling, and to do it next gen's even better.
Well, that's fantastic to hear. And before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a big thank you to live on air?
Thanks to you guys, the Next Gen guys, Matt, Mark, yourself, Paul, all the commentary work and all the behind the scenes stuff you guys do to get this running smoothly and to put on a great show is muchly appreciated. So thank you guys, the Next Gen.
Oh, well, thank you very much, William. But with that, thank you for joining us in the interview room, and most importantly, congratulations on not just securing the win today, but securing P3 in the Pro Championship in Season 2 of the Next Gen GT3 series.
Thank you guys, have a great off season.
You too, and we look forward to seeing you potentially back in Season 3.
Yep, we'll do.
All the best.
Bye.
So hearing there from William Foyle, very happy with his performance, and I think you can hear quite a bit of self-reflection there in terms of that surprise at the win, but also I think that sense of accomplishment in terms of balancing the race out through and through and just bringing it home and coming home P3 in the championship. As you're saying there, his target was to beat Paul Scott, but in the end he achieved more than just beating Paul Scott, coming home third place on the podium when all is said and done. A major achievement, and well, we do have to wonder if he is able to join us for Season 3, how far could he take it in the Pro Class in Season 3? We'll have to wait and see. But now, speaking of championships, we must come on to interviewing our championship winners and hear their thoughts and reflections. And we're going to be starting off with Stefan Wessels, who will be joining us, our AM championship winner, having secured the championship in round number 11. Let's bring him into the interview room. Good evening, Stefan. Can you hear me?
Paul, yes, loud and clear.
Stefan, it wasn't to be the perfect day today, but at the same time, you're able to salvage a result out of the race in the end and bring the car home in what was P2 in class. How was it at Bathurst?
It was a day of mixed fortunes for the RTA team. I mean, at the end, we still managed second and third. I mean, Sean finished in third place without the bonnet on his car and almost the wheel falling off. So I think at the end of it all, it was a good result.
Indeed, and just taking it through, in terms of from your own perspective, a difficult race out there. It looked as though it was going your way, and then there were a number of moments where the circuit just seemed to buy it back. Was it just a case of it just wasn't your day personally? Because we've seen time and time again just how much pace you're able to deliver, but Bathurst, such a tricky circuit.
Yeah, to be honest, at the start, I mean, I knew the start was going to be slow and the start was going to be difficult. I was last in the grid, so I had the entire field ahead of me. And I mean, at the start, Stuart made a mistake, and we had a safety car, and we bunched up again, and slowly but surely, one move, but it was very slow, very difficult to overtake. And even with the Ferrari coming out of Forest Alba, it didn't really have the traction it couldn't really get the acceleration, and I was struggling to get the run on guys ahead of me. So it wasn't the easiest track, even though you had a massive straight, it wasn't easy to just overtake. So it took me a while. I think it took me about 35 minutes, 36 minutes to actually get a clear track ahead of me. And yeah, the first time I got to Skyline with no cars ahead of me, I missed my braking marker. And yeah, that was me into the wall and another minute and a half of trying to get back to the pits.
Well, it's very unfortunate with that after making so much ground, and from that point onwards, I'd presume that the race turned more into damage limitation for yourself in delivering on that team championship. Because we heard from you last time at round number 11 how important the team championship was to you, and also racing Team Astra. And was it a case in just focusing on what can we get out of this race?
Yeah, the focus was to get a podium, and unfortunately, Mark also had an incident, and that gave me the opportunity to get into second place. Well, Mark and Sean had incidents, so I jumped both of them due to that. So all in all, I think it should have probably been Darren, Mark, and Sean. But I mean, it's easy to say I made a mistake, they made a mistake. It's just part of this race, man.
Oh, indeed, and that's the thing with Bathurst. In 2 hours of racing at Bathurst, anything can happen and mistakes can come thick and fast. But in the end, I believe, subject to confirmation, I think the results that yourself and the team have achieved will be enough to give you guys the win in the team championship. Although, of course, we'll wait for that next week. But on that assumption, how does it feel to know that you guys have been the #1 team at this season?
Oh, no, I'm super proud of the guys. I mean, like I said before, we're all new to iRacing, so we've been putting in the time, doing our team practice sessions, just helping each other out. And yeah, I can't really say more than a big thank you to the guys. And yeah, guys have done a brilliant job all season.
Oh, well, that's fantastic to hear. And just looking to yourself, in terms of a bit of self-reflection, of course, taking the AM Championship last time out in Japan, and obviously today was more of a race focused around the team. But when you look back on this season, what has been your main highlight or your set of highlights?
The first highlight would be getting a couple of overall pole positions. But then the ultimate highlight would be in Spa, where I actually won the race. So yeah, we won the overall race from pole. So that must be the highlight of the season for me.
Oh, indeed. Well, it was a record-breaking result as well, that win at Spa. Indeed, one that goes down in the history books of this series. And it'll be interesting to see if it will ever be replicated. But with that in mind, and the fact looking ahead to Season 3, can we expect Racing Team Astra to be out in full force in the next season?
Yeah, so this season we obviously started with 3 guys. Sean joined, so that made us 4. So I think the aim is going to be to get 6 guys, so 2 teams of 3 running in the next season in whatever classes we end up being in. But yeah, that's going to be the aim.
Oh, well, we definitely look forward to that and look forward to the return of yourself and the team. But until then, Stefan, thank you for joining us in the interview room. Congratulations on second place today, but most importantly, congratulations on being our AM Championship winner for Lobby 2 of Season 2 of the Next Gen Racing GT3 Championship.
Thanks, Paul. I just want to quickly say a big thanks to you for all the streams and the commentating. It's always great to watch. And also a big thanks to Matt and the guys for organizing and running the league. And we want to see those team points, man.
I'm sure they'll come out very soon. But with that, it's been our pleasure. And well, we look forward to having yourself and Racing Team Astra back in the near future.
Cool. Cheers.
All the best. So here and there from Stefan Wessels, very happy with how things have concluded for himself and the team. Of course, a very difficult race today at Bathurst. The whole team really feeling the pinch and the punch with regards to the Bathurst circuit being relentless and seeming not to give them a break. But in the end, I do believe, subject to official confirmation, they've just about held on to take the championship win ahead of Luxim 24 of MV Esports. But we will have that confirmed next week. And Stefan Wessels there, very reflective in terms of those highlights, particularly taking multiple overall poles, whereby the AM driver in the form of Stefan Wessels took the overall pole ahead of the pros, and also the overall win in the sprint at Spa, which was a major achievement and the first time we've seen it in the series history. And I think it's going to be very difficult for that to be matched, if not beaten. But now for our final interview of the day, we come to our Pro Championship winner, and that is Gareth Williams. Let's bring him into the interview room. Hello, Gaz. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear, Paul, mate.
Gaz, it looks as though it was a very difficult day out of Bathurst for yourself, and it didn't quite go the way you wanted it, but you've still brought home the Pro Championship. Mixed feelings about Bathurst?
Well, if you're going to ever have a spin and a crash, I guess it's better to do it after you've wrapped the championship up, I guess, isn't it? Yeah, obviously winning it last week wasn't really any pressure going into this week, so it was just kind of drive, whatever happens, have some fun, I guess. Yeah, race was going all right, and then it just wasn't after, a silly little spin into the barrier, and it just went downhill from there, really.
Well, indeed, it was looking at a solid race to begin with, and yourself and, well, it looked as though it was the whole next-gen army running P1 through to P4 until William Foyle started to come up on the scene. Just take us through that, because that was a bit of an interesting dynamic where it seems as though you were all working in coordination to an extent, or doing quite a bit of fuel saving off of one another after the safety car period had cleared, of course.
Yeah, after the safety car, I was quite happy with how it was going. I was just obviously slightly easing up towards them, and I was doing quite a lot of fuel saving down the end of the straights and that. And then obviously got into a position where I was, I think we were like all within, a second, 2 seconds or something like that up the front. And yeah, one by one, we just kind of fell away, sort of thing. So, yeah.
Well, indeed, but then with regards to that one incident, which we do have to talk about, where it was into the wall at what was, if I remember correctly, Griffiths Bend, where the rear left-hand side came into the wall. From that point onwards, jumping to the pits, and it all started to go downhill from there. Did it just feel as though after that point that the circuit just was no longer giving you that sort of comfort that you wanted anymore? Because Bathurst can feel like that when you get it wrong once. It's almost as if it becomes a monster.
Generally, Bathurst is actually a track I really like, so... I wasn't actually going to originally take tyres at the stop, but obviously we were all so close together, and I thought I'd be better taking tyres now at the stop, and then been offset, if you know what I mean, and then I could run my own pace in free air. But yeah, I just turned into the right-hander, and it was fine, and then all of a sudden it just went, and it was so late into the corner, it just went straight into the barrier backwards. Did actually manage to carry on. I thought I'll give it a lap, see what it feels like. And then next lap, what was it? 2 corners on that double left. I went into there, and it just had on the brakes. It just didn't stop, and it went straight down the side of the barrier. And that's when I had to tow back to the pit. So yeah.
Oh, goodness me. Well, an absolute horror show moment for yourself. And as you say, from that point onwards, it all seemed to go downhill, but you kept at it all the same. And, well, in the end, bringing the car home in what was, if I remember correctly, P9 in class. And I think that's your lowest result of the season, funnily enough, in the season finale, ending on a season low, not a season high. But still, we look to the season highs, and of course, you are our pro champion. What have been your highlights or your highs of this season that you'll look back on after today?
Generally, it's been a decent season. Been a few little incidents here and there, but generally, I enjoyed every race. I think actually last week was probably my most favourite race because you had me, Will, Jamie, and we were just full on going for it, flat out in that last stage of that race. So I enjoyed that because it was like flat out to the line, really. So probably my favourite race out of all of them, really.
Well, indeed, it was fantastic racing between the three of you there at Twin Ring Motegi. Indeed, it wasn't easy on my voice trying to commentate over it, I could assure you that. But with that in mind, just before we let you go, is there anybody you would like to say thank you to or give a shout out to live on air?
Yeah, just, NXTGEN first iRacing league done on NXTGEN thing. It's been pretty enjoyable. Yeah, can't wait to come back for season 3. And then, just, like Mark, sort me out a livery. Done a cracking job on that. So, if you ever need a livery, go check him out.
Indeed, that's in reference to Mark Sykes Designs,
Mark
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, with that, Gaz, thank you for joining us in the interview room. And again, congratulations on, whilst it wasn't a great day at Bathurst today, congratulations on the Pro Championship win. You are a Pro Champion for Lobby 2 of Season 2 of the Next Gen Racing GT3 Championship. And we cannot wait to have you back in Season 3.
Nice one, mate. Thanks.
All the best.
See you now.
So hearing there from Gareth Williams, or Gazza in short, and well, it didn't go his way today, as he was saying there. After that pit stop, the first pit stop where he changed the tyres, just the rear of the car went into Griffiths Bend, into the wall, and then subsequently, when he tried to go through the cutting, the car just would not give him the retardation under braking he wanted, and straight lined into the outside wall. And that's where it had to be towed to the pits. And after that, it just did not come back alive. And sometimes that's the way it does go, but to be fair, he kept his head in it, and also the fact he'd already secured the Pro Championship before going into this round. Really, this one was more about having fun and trying to bring home the points that he could do, alternatively bring home another result, but it wasn't to be. But it'll be very interesting to see Gareth Williams returning for Season 3 and just how much he can potentially bring to the table and up that fight to retain his Pro Championship crown. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. And if you do want to know more about the Next Gen Racing community, why not check us out on our official website, that's nextgenracing.co.uk. Alternatively, our Facebook group, that's facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing. Also, a big thank you to our title sponsors and partners for Lobby 2 of this series. That is Coach Dave Academy at coachdaveacademy.com and Next Level Racing at nextlevelracing.com. Without them, we'd not be able to bring you all of this racing action time and time again over the course of the 12 rounds. Now, next time, ladies and gentlemen, of course, next week there will be no broadcast, and we have had some questions in the YouTube chat from Stuart Taylor with regards to will there be a season recap stream next week. Unfortunately, I will not be able to bring you that. I do not have the time available because I need to spend the time next week and over the next couple of weeks dissecting the best overtake of the season, plus also the most improved driver and the most consistent driver, and also the best livery. But what I can tell you is that Season 3 will be coming to a virtual circuit near you starting Wednesday the 6th of April 2022. It's not too far away. It's only a month and a half away. Sign-ups are going to be open soon, and well, we've got plenty of returning drivers. We've already heard from a number of drivers saying they're coming back for Season 3, and indeed, if you are tuning in right now and wanting to get involved and wanting to sign up, do get in touch with us at Next Gen Racing, at our Facebook group. Alternatively, on our website, our contact details are there, because you can be sure if Season 2 was anything to be a judge of caliber, Season 3 is only going to take it a step further. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to bring the curtain down on the GT3 Championship Season 2 on iRacing. We have covered the Apex Racing Academy lobby, Lobby 1. We have covered Lobby 2, the Coach Dave Academy Next Level Racing lobby. That is it for all of the racing action for Season 2. I have been your host, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. We have been at Next Gen Racing. It has been our honour to bring this series to you. And until Season 3, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.